Hey guys, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to see an amazing what-if story. But before we start, it's just a humble request that if you are new here, please subscribe because it actually motivates me a lot to post more. Also, the stories on my channel are fully written by me, so if you have any suggestions for what-if stories, please let me know below the comment section. Now, without any further delay, let's start. What if Harry Potter became an Eleden god? Wind in his teeth. Salt, grass, ash. He woke on cold stone with his cheek pressed to grit and a taste like old pennies. For a second he saw green light and a hall full of broken wands and shouting. Then it was gone. A gold sky burned above a cliff and a tree that was not a tree rose into it. Roots like ribs, light pouring from every leaf. Harry pushed up on numb palms. The world tilted. His ribs ached. His head rang. He reached for his wand on instinct. Polished elder wood slid into his hand as if it had never left. Warm. Alive. He breathed. Lumos. Nothing. He blinked. Tried again, a touch sharper. Lumos. Silence and a low hum through his fingers like a cat under a blanket. A gentle resistance. Not refusal exactly. The wand wanted something he did not understand. He stood. The cliff path dipped toward grass and ruined stone. A rider moved below on an open stretch of road. Golden armor. A giant halberd. A horse like a statue come to life. The rider turned his head. Light slid across the helm. Harry stepped back fast and his boot scraped. The rider stilled. The horse pawed. The halberd rose. Harry's chest went tight. Protego, he said, quick and low. Nothing. He swallowed, drew breath, and aimed at the rider as if will could bridge the gap. Stupefy, the wand throbbed. No red bolt. No spark. The rider urged the horse into a slow walk. The halberd tracked Harry's line on the cliff. Harry took a step, then another, then he ran. He cut along the edge toward a gap in the broken wall. The horse accelerated. In 3 heartbeats the rider covered the slope and was angling up through scrub. The halberd came up like a bell tower. Harry threw himself through the gap. Light flashed off metal. Air split. The halberd hit the stones where his legs had been with a crash that shook dust down his throat. He coughed, rolled, and scrambled along the inside of the wall. Hoofbeats hammered. He jumped a fallen pillar and slid down a bank toward a stand of scraggly trees. The rider found him. The horse took the drop without complaint. The halberd swept low. Harry jerked the wand up again. Desperate. Expelliarmus. The word hit the air and fell like a pebble. No scarlet whip. The halberd struck his side. All the breath went out of him at once. He heard a crack that was too close to be anything but his own ribs. He staggered, fell to one knee, and tried to roll again. But the horse leaned, and iron filled his vision. The second strike landed clean. Pain. Then a clean blackness like plunging head first into a pond at night. Heat. No, not heat. Warmth. Dreading. He was held and then he was not. His eyes opened to gold light that did not hurt. A drift of dust hung in the air above a shallow bowl of light resting on a broken pillar. The same cliff. The same sea wind. No horse. No rider. Harry pushed up on his elbows, then sat fully. His side no longer screamed. He touched his ribs. Whole. No bends in the bone. The wand lay beside his hand where he had set it on the stone, as if he had been asleep all along. The bowl of light called to him without words. It was not voice. It was a pull, gentle but firm, like the tug of tide at the ankles. He stared at the light. Where did I go? He said. His voice sounded wrong in the open air. Small. He blew out a breath and looked down at the wand. It hummed again, quiet and steady, like a string being tuned. Fine, he said to the wind. If spells are not spells here, what are you? The pull from the bowl softened. Harry reached out with his free hand and touched the light. Warmth moved up his arm. Memory folded over him in a thin sheet. The rider, the halberd, the sound of his ribs. Then stitching along his spine as if something had gathered him again one thread at a time and tied the last knot right behind his heart. He pulled his hand back. The light dimmed and then steadied. The pull remained. It wanted him to go east down the slope. He stood and squared his shoulders against the ache. that ache he could not name, then turned away from the road and followed a path under a crumbling arch. The air cooled in the shade. The smell of the sea fell away and the smell of damp stone came forward. A small chamber stood open to the sky where roof had fallen in. A narrow fire ring lay dead in the middle with black ash. A rag of cloth hung from a spear stuck into the dirt. No voices. No footfalls. He listened anyway. Nothing but wind under stone and a far gull. He put the wand up in front of his face and spoke without words. Not a spell name. A request. Light, please. The wand warmed. Power moved through his palm and up his forearm like a slow current. The hum settled into his bones. He had felt this once or twice as a child when things had gone truly wrong and he had cried without sound and the room had answered. No Latin. No carved arc. Only intent. He let the wand sharpen, then he gave it shape and pushed. A small drop of pale fire formed at the wand tip and hung there. He stared. It was not the thin blue-white of a Lumos charm. It was orange and alive and not entirely tame. It wobbled like a bubble as if a breath might break it. He cupped his hand under it and the heat bit his palm. He hissed, jerked his hand back, and the drop fell and splashed into sparks on the ash. The sparks hissed out. He laughed once. A short, surprised sound that echoed off the broken walls. All right, he said. You are a different sort of stubborn. The pull from the bowl tugged at him again. He ignored it. He paced the little chamber. He tried again. Shape and push. The drop came easier. He flicked the wand and the drop leapt like a thrown stone and smacked the far wall. Dust fell. A scorch kissed the stone. Not elegant, he said. But it is something. He tried a second push with a different wand. Not light. Force. Sand through a sling. The wand dug into his hand. Heat moved through his fingers and he snapped his wrist as if he still held a beater bat on a summer pitch. A scatter of glowing grit shot from the tip and cracked against the wall with a series of sharp taps. He grinned despite himself. Bestial sling, he said, tasting the words. The phrase was wrong in his mouth. It did not belong to his old life. Fit this place. He lowered the wand. So that is how we do this. He stepped out into the light again. The gold tree threw long shadows. The wind had shifted. Smoke rode it now. Cook fire. Fat on an iron pan. He followed the smell up a slope and found a low camp in a shallow hollow where stone broke the wind. 3 soldiers. One at the pot. One with a spear leaning against a crate, rubbing a boot with a rag. One drowsing against a pack with his helm tilted down. Harry stopped at the edge of the hollow and pressed himself into scrub. The pull from the bowl drifted away for a moment, as if the light itself watched to see what he would do. His chest tightened. In his world there were rules for a moment like this. Announce. Disarm. Bind. Ask the names. He looked at the spear, the pot, the lazy ease of the men. He looked down at his empty belt with its lack of cuffs or cords. Then he looked at his wand. The memory of the rider landed in his throat and held there. Do not get close, he whispered. Do not be stupid. He slid sideways along the lip of the hollow until he could see the camp from a new angle. The drowsing soldier shifted and the helm slid down another finger. The one with the rag kept his attention on the boot leather. The cook leaned in to stir. The smell of fat and barley grew stronger. He licked dry lips and forced himself to breathe slow. The grass tickled his wrists. He shaped and pushed. The wand grew hot in his hand. A drop of orange swelled at the tip. He sighted on the cook's sleeve. He did not aim for the man's face. He could not. He flicked. The drop snapped across the space and struck cloth. The fabric flared. The cook yelled and jerked back, batting at the fire. The soldier with the rag grabbed the spear, then twisted toward the sound. The drowsing man jolted and reached for his sword. Harry stood up out of the scrub and sent a scatter of glowing grit into the spearman's eyes. The man shouted and dropped the spear. Harry slipped down the bank in 3 clumsy steps and closed the space to the cook. The cook stumbled back, sleeve smoking, and grabbed for his knife at his belt. Harry lifted the wand and pushed a tighter drop of fire at the knife hand. The drop hit and the knife clattered to the dirt. The cook cursed and lunged anyway, hands empty, mouth pulled back. Harry raised the wand in both hands out of reflex like he meant to use it as a club. A trumpet note cut the air from the road. Sharp, bright, too near. The sound ran up Harry's spine. The spear man had found his voice and was shouting to the road without words. A long, desperate call. "Please!" Harry said to no one, to the air, to the man in front of him, and to himself. He moved without thinking. He stepped in under the swinging arm, brought his shoulder into the cook's chest, and shoved with all the strength he had left. The cook fell backward over the pot. The pot tipped. Broth spilled. The man hit the dirt with a wet slap and went still for a heartbeat from surprise. Harry did not run. He should have run. He planted his feet and jabbed the wand at the man's chest and pushed as hard as he could. Heat surged. The drop of fire that answered was not a neat marble. It was a fist, punched into cloth and flesh. The smell changed in an instant to hair and meat. The man screamed. Harry staggered back, choking. The man rolled to his side and curled around the wound and then stopped moving, as if a string had been cut somewhere out of sight. His eyes stared at nothing. The spear man blinked tears from the grit and came in with a wordless sound. Harry whipped the wand and threw grit into the man's mouth, then snapped a second burst into his eyes again. The man flinched, groped for the spear with angry hands, then thought better and reached for his sword instead. Harry heard hooves on stone above the camp. He felt the pull of the bowl again, hard now, to the east, down, away. He pointed the wand at the spearman's knees and pushed a thin line of heat. It was not pretty and it was not strong. It startled the man and made him shift just enough. Harry stepped in and kicked the inside of the man's shin. The joint buckled. The soldier dropped, caught himself with a hand, and tried to rise. Harry put the wand under the man's chin. "Do not," he said. The soldier froze, panting. Harry could hear the other soldier breathing behind him. He kept the wand up and did not turn his back. "Do not," Harry said again, louder. The soldier behind him spat. Harry heard the scrape of metal on a scabbard. He did not have time to be anything but the person in the moment. He snapped his wrist and sent grit over his shoulder. It would not do much. It did enough. The second man cursed, flinched, then charged anyway with his sword half out. Harry threw his body sideways and the sword skimmed the cloth of his shirt. He felt a cold kiss along his ribs right where the halberd had crushed him an hour earlier. He caught a wild look at the first man still on his knees, then made a choice he did not want to make. He snapped a drop of fire into the second man's chest at close range. The drop hit like a thrown ember. The man grunted and swung his sword as if pain were only another order ignored. The blade whistled past Harry's ear. Harry lunged inside the man's reach, jammed the wand into the gap at the edge of the breastplate, and pushed. Heat roared. The man went rigid. Harry yanked the wand free and the man fell onto his back, flailed a hand, then slowed, then stopped. Hoofbeats on the road. Closer. Harry whipped his head toward the lip of the hollow. A golden helm moved along the top. The rider had not yet seen him. The soldier on his knees made a soft, shocked noise. The trumpet sounded again, farther now, an answer. More riders. Harry raised the wand to the kneeling man's throat and the man lifted his hands. "Run," Harry said. Came out raw. "Run." The man ran. He scrambled up the bank and fell twice, then found his feet and went over the edge and disappeared. Harry stood shaking in the middle of the camp. The pot steamed. The spilled broth made a muddy rim around the fallen fire. The two bodies lay where they had fallen. The smell was everywhere. He dropped to a knee and threw up into the grass until there was nothing left but spit. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. The wand pressed against his palm like a promise he had not made. He heard a soft snort behind him. He spun, wand up. Not a rider. A horse without saddle stood in the shadow of a standing stone at the far edge of the hollow and watched him with patient eyes. No, not a horse. Something else. Its eyes were too clear. The air around it seemed to thicken, as if his attention itself had a weight. "Easy," Harry said, as if the animal understood English. It blinked and dipped its head. Its ears turned toward the road, then toward him again. The pull from the bowl tugged hard in the same direction the animal looked. East, down the slope, away from the road, away from the golden rider. Harry took 3 steps to the nearest body and bent with a wince that seemed to catch every joint. He did not search for long. He was not ready to learn what these men kept in their pockets. He took a waterskin wired to a belt, a small wrapped heel of bread, and a short plain sword from beside the pack. His fingers shook around the hilt. He slid the blade through a simple loop at his own belt and breathed through the taste in his mouth until his stomach stopped jumping. He looked at the 2 bodies one more time. He wanted to say something and did not know what words belonged in this air. Sorry felt thin. He swallowed that one and said nothing at all. He climbed the bank and eased to the edge of the road, then waited as the rider passed. The horse clinked. The halberd glowed. The rider did not look down into the hollow. Harry stood very still until the sound of iron on stone faded. The animal by the stone came up the slope inside the cover of scrub and stopped near him. It snorted again, softer this time, as if it had judged him and found him acceptable enough. "Hello," Harry said. Because people talked to animals where he came from and nothing bad had ever come of it. He reached a hand out, palm open. The animal breathed on his skin. Warm. The pull from the bowl braided with that breath for a heartbeat. A quiet voice that was not a voice at all came with the wind. A woman spoke behind him. "Greetings, traveler in need of a maiden." Harry turned fast and brought the wand up. A girl stood on the road like a shadow drawn in gold light. She wore a long dark cloak with a hood that left her face in a soft pool of shade. Her eyes caught the tree light and held it. She did not reach for a weapon. She did not move at all in a way that made him think of statues and patience. He did not lower the wand. "Who are you?" he said. "Melina," she said. "I offer you a cord." Her voice was even. Not cold. Not warm. Measured. It gave him nothing to press against, which put his teeth on edge. "A cord for what?" he said. "To serve you as maiden. To turn the runes you gather into strength. To see you to the round table hold. To Torrent if he accepts you." She tipped her head a little toward the animal. It lifted its head at the sound of its name. "Torrent," Harry said, tasting the name. Melina stepped closer by one measured pace. "You died. You returned at grace. You have already learned more than most. I can help you with the rest." "Help me how?" he said. "By pointing and telling me where to die next." A corner of her mouth moved half a fraction. It did not become a smile. "You are quick to anger for one who still smells of fear and broth," she said. He heard his own breath and realized it was too fast. He forced it slower. He kept the wand up. He did not step back. "What is this guidance of grace?" he said. "And do not say destiny. I have had enough prophecy for one lifetime. Threads of will that flow from the Eleden ring. The greater will calls the tarnished home. Grace shows the path. And if the path is wrong," he said. "The path is a path," she said. "Not an order." "That answer is not an answer," he said. "Who do you serve?" She did not blink. "Not the 2 fingers. Not the golden order as it is. I serve the purpose of my body. That is enough. It will end when it must. Before that, I will see the one I choose to the throne." He hated how those words touched an old chord. The memory of Dumbledore arranging people on a board rose with the smell of lemons and would polish in grief. He bit the inside of his cheek hard enough to taste blood. "I am not a piece on a board," he said. "I am not a player," she said. Harry lowered the wand a finger. Not much. Enough to let air into his shoulders. "The light pulled me," he said. "It dragged me up by the heart. You call that a thread. I call it a leash. You may ignore it," she said. "You will not like the results." He snorted once. "I do not like any of the results so far." "Then accept my offer," she said in the same even voice. "Let me share in your strength. Let Torrent carry you. Let me make the path less cruel." Harry looked at the animal. The eyes were still on him. Torrent shifted his weight and stamped once, as if to say the conversation had gone on long enough and there were better places to stand than the middle of a road in the open. The gold light tried to make everything grand. It only made Harry feel exposed. "If I say no," he said. "I leave," Melina said. "You will die again." Perhaps you will take longer to return. Perhaps you will not. He lifted the wand and then let it fall to his side. He felt tired in a way that did not belong to the body he wore. The tired lived in his neck and in the small of his back and behind his eyes. "What is the price?" he said. "My service until my purpose ends," she said. "Your service until yours ends." "You did not say mine." She waited. He realized then that she would always answer only the thing asked. No more, no less. He scraped a hand over his face and found a line of dried broth on his cheek. He wiped it off. "Fine," he said. "A cord." She lifted her hand. He did not take it. He set the tip of the wand in his palm and held it out instead. She touched the wood for a breath. The hum rose. Torrent made a soft sound, almost pleased. "Torrent accepts," she said. "Call him when you need his speed." Harry nodded once. "Round table hold," he said. "Where?" She turned her head a fraction. "East, then north, through a gate. You will know it by the men who guard it badly." Harry almost smiled. Surprised him. Surprised her too. The corner of her mouth moved again. A little more this time. "One more thing," he said. He lifted the wand. "This does not cast my spells. It fights me. Then it answers." "Why?" "It is not fighting," she said. "It is waiting for you to learn how to ask." He breathed in and let it out. "That is not a helpful answer." "It is the only one," she said. He looked down the slope toward a broken line of stones that pointed like teeth toward a ruin. He looked at the hollow behind them with its pot and its bodies and the dark mark on the dirt. He tasted bile again and swallowed it. "I killed him," he said, very quiet. "Yes," Melina said. "He was going to kill me," he said, as if she had accused him. "Yes," Melina said. "That does not make it easier." "No," he nodded. The wind ran up the road. A gull cried over the cliff and the note made his throat hurt. "Tell me how to make the light less of a leash," he said. "Then we walk." "Use it as a lamp," she said. "Not a chain. Look, decide. Step off the line when you must. That is what separates a pawn from a lord." He flicked a look at her. She had not said the word king. She had not said hero. She had said lord as if it were a job, not a crown. "Fine," he said again. The word felt useful in his mouth. It shut things without pretending they were fixed. Melina moved to the side of the road and waited. Torrent passed between them and stopped with his shoulder against Harry's arm like a steadying friend. The animal smelled like warm rope and rain. Harry set a hand on the mane and felt the anchor it offered. They went east. The path dropped into scrub and then climbed again to a small rise where a broken shrine stood under the open sky. The bowl of light rested there, waiting. Harry touched it with 2 fingers. Warmth rose and the fatigue in his legs eased just enough to feel like a kindness rather than a trick. He breathed out and let his shoulders settle. "Round table hold," he said again. "After the gate," Melina said. "After the storm gate and the men who will either charge or flee in a way that tells you more about their commanders than any speech." He glanced at her. "You speak like someone who has watched men make the same mistake more than once." "I have," she said. "Were you always watching?" he said. "Or were you sometimes made to act?" She did not answer. He let the question fall between them and did not pick it up again. They walked. The sky did not change. The gold stayed gold. The tree glowed. At the next bend they came upon another small camp above the road. A lone soldier sat on a crate with his back to them. He was not eating. He was rubbing a rag across the edge of a blade that was already sharp. His head bobbed with some private tune. Harry stopped. The soldier kept humming and did not look around. Harry looked at the open back of the neck where the helm did not reach. He could make this easy. He could make it quick. He did not move. "You do not need to kill him," Melina said. "I know," Harry said. His voice came out hoarse. He stepped around with care and kept to the grass and the shadow of a dead tree. The soldier did not lift his head. Torrent's hooves made no sound on the dirt. They passed without word. At the turn Harry looked back once. The soldier still hummed. Farther on, the path bent down by a pile of broken wagons. A thin trumpet note came from the gate ahead. Not alarm this time. A simple signal. Shift. Change of watch. The sound carried clean in the gold air. "Breathe," Melina said. And the word was not a command. It was permission. He did. He kept his gaze on the ground for a few steps. Grass, scuffed dirt, a footprint that was not his, a scrap of blue cloth caught on a thorn. Simple things that did not ask him to choose anything in this exact second. His breathing evened. His hands stopped aching around the wand. He lifted his head and the gate rose before them. Men in mismatched armor paced the wall and the path below it. One had a horn. One had a torch that he did not need in this light. A drummer tapped a soft rhythm that was more for courage than for war. The pull from the bowl urged him forward in a straight line toward the opening. He felt it and then set his feet half a pace to the left of that line and smiled to himself at the small defiance. "Hello again," he said to the wand under his breath. "Let us try this your way." He set his left hand on Torrent's mane. He kept his right hand low with the wand angled across his thigh. He did not lower his eyes as he came into the open. He did not raise them either. He let the men at the gate become shapes and steps and distances. He counted the breaths between trumpet taps. He listened for a change in the drum. From the wall someone shouted a name he did not know. 2 soldiers shifted. One of them squinted at Harry's clothes, then at the animal, then at Melina. The man seemed to decide none of them fit the threat he knew. He looked away. Harry did not trust that kind of luck. "Keep walking," Melina said. "I am," he said. "Keep choosing," she said. "I will," he said. The wind ran through the gate like a hand through tall grass. The drum faltered once and then found the beat again. The pull from the bowl lay along Harry's spine. He did not hate it now. He did not like it. He accepted that it was there. He crossed the threshold into shadow. The first arrow hissing down from the left wall snapped past his ear so close it lifted a lock of hair. He felt the movement of air on skin. He flinched and brought the wand up hard. The second arrow came a breath later with a sound like a nail across a brick. "Down," Melina said, already moving. Harry dropped and dragged Torrent with him by the mane. The arrow sang over his back. The drummer shouted and someone on the wall laughed as if they had done something clever. The horn did not sound. Not yet. Harry rolled to a knee and looked up at the spot where the shot had come from. A helm glimpsed and gone. He felt the pull from the bowl align with his own anger for the first time. "Not a leash," he said to the gold light above the gate. "A lamp." He shaped heat fast. He pushed. The drop leapt for the slot in the wall and burst inside with a pop. A curse came back. A hand waved smoke out of the slit. The horn finally blew. The sound hit his chest and made his teeth ache. Harry stood, set his feet, and let his breath shorten. He did not think about mercy or law or the clean green of that last spell in a different world. He thought about the rider at the cliff and the 2 bodies in the hollow and the soldier who hummed. He thought about the smell that did not leave his clothes. He thought about survival and choice. "Move," Melina said. He moved. The third arrow came straight for his face. He cut it with a scatter of glowing grit at a span and watched it break into little pieces in the air like a glass bead. The pieces fell around his feet and pattered against stone. The sound was small. The space beyond the gate widened out and filled with men who had not yet decided if they were brave. Harry did not wait for their decision. He raised the wand. He pushed. The fight started. The day did not change. The gold stayed gold. The tree watched from far above, and he did not look up. He kept his eyes on the next breath and the next step and the next voice in front of him. He kept going. Torch smoke in the throat. Sweat under cloth. Steps to his left and steps to his right. Harry kept his hand on Torrent's mane and his wand low as he and Melina rode the windless corridor of gray air that led from the gate to a stone circle that felt like a pause. A small bowl of light waited there. He touched it. Warmth moved into his bones. The ache in his ribs eased. The world tilted and then steadied. "Round table hold," Melina said. "What is it?" he asked. "A refuge outside this land. A place to speak and learn. No blades may be drawn inside. Not unless you wish to be punished for arrogance." "By whom?" "By the hold itself," she said. "Do not test it. You will not like the lesson." He nodded once. She offered her hand. He did not take it. He set his fingers to the light again. Warmth climbed. The cliff wind and the gold sky fell away like a pulled curtain. He stood in a wide hall with walls set with carved arches and iron sconces. The air was warm. The stone had the weight of a place that had stood too long to pretend about anything. A round table, scarred and stained, sat in the center. Voices drifted from side rooms. Forge, cloth, murmurs. The hum in his wand steadied as if the wood remembered this air. A man in ragged armor leaned against a pillar with his arms crossed. He had the watchful stare of a hunter who did not smile much. Gold leaf flaked from the edge of a crest on his breastplate. "You there," the man said. "Tarnished. I am D. Hunter of the Dead. You smell of grace. You also smell of something else. Not rot. Not yet." Harry looked at Melina. She had stepped back into the shadow of a column. He could not read her face. He turned his head toward the hunter again. "I woke on a cliff," Harry said. "I was chased by a man in gold. I died. I woke again. I killed to keep that from happening twice in 1 hour. I do not know what I smell like to you." Dee pushed off the pillar and came close enough for Harry to see the lines on his face. "Those who live in death are not true to this world," Dee said. "They must be put to final rest. Be wary of loose tongues. There are women here who whisper false comfort. They ruin men. They ruin order." Harry said nothing. "If you find the walking, put them down," Dee said. "Bring word. I will see that you are rewarded with truth." He gave a short nod as if the matter were settled, then walked away and took his silence with him. Harry watched him go until the air around the hunter felt less sharp. "Pleasant," Harry said under his breath. Melina did not answer. She tilted her head toward a side door in the far wall. "Before you stretch your temper at a zealot," she said, "speak to the one he hates." Harry crossed the hall. The door opened into a smaller chamber set with a bed with simple linen and a small chest. A woman sat on the edge of the bed with her hands folded in her lap. Dark hair framed a calm face. Her eyes were tired in a way that did not invite pity. She lifted them to Harry and smiled a little as if the smile were for him alone. "Hello, dear," she said. "Would you allow me to hold you?" Harry stopped. His back tightened. His fingers found a firmer line around the wand. "Why?" he asked. "To share warmth," she said. "To share courage. It is a gift I can give, and it costs little." Melina spoke from the doorway. "This is Fia," she said. "She is called a deathbed companion by those who fear what they do not understand." Fia kept her eyes on Harry. "You are not like the others," she said softly. "There is a weight around you. Not sorrow. Acceptance. You have stood in the room with death and you did not look away." "I have," Harry said. The words left his mouth before he had decided to give them. He felt the old cold of a forest and the shape of a stone in his hand and a voice that was not a voice at all. "Let me give you a small piece of comfort," Fia said. "A small breath against your fear. Nothing more." He went to the bed and sat. She put her arms around him with care, neither hard nor soft. For a moment his breath fought him. He let it settle. His shoulders dropped. He did not cry. He did not speak. He let the quiet work. When she let him go, she set her fingers against the back of his hand for a second, then folded them back into her lap. "Those who live in death did not choose to be trapped," she said. "Their end was taken from them. They are not a mockery. They are the proof of a stolen law. I wish to help them find a final rest with dignity." "Dee wants to put them down," Harry said. "He wants to call that law." "Dee fears what is missing," she said. "He names fear with old words and hopes it will behave." Harry looked down at the wand in his hand. He spoke without a spell word and the wood warmed. He could have lied and said he did not know what it meant to hold the dead and let them go. He did not lie. "I am what my people called the Master of Death," he said quietly. "Not a judge, not a slayer. I accepted that I would die, and I held the tools that stand for that lesson. Kept power from taking the last piece of me. Saved my friends. That acceptance matters." Fia watched him with wet eyes. "You will understand me then," she said. "Many here call me a corrupter. I am not. I lay beside the forgotten, and I listen. I carry a blessing to those who ask. I seek a rune that can give life within death, not escape, an order that allows rest, an end that is truly an end, Harry said. Yes, Fia said. Dee stepped into the doorway and cleared his throat. He held his hands folded as if he were in a court. Melina remained still as stone beside him. Do not let her words turn you, Dee said. She serves a false path. The dead must be put away. Their blessing is a curse. Avoid her. Fia did not move. She did not look at Dee. She kept her eyes on Harry. Decide for yourself, she said. Harry stood. He faced Dee with the wand held low and easy. Where I come from, Harry said. We had a minister who decided for us and called it order. He broke children to keep his ledgers clean. I do not owe men like that my ears. Dee's jaw went tight. You smell strange, Dee said. If you walk with the living dead, you will not be welcome at my side. Then stand somewhere else, Harry said. Dee turned on his heel and left. Melina watched him go, then looked at Harry. Choose your allies, she said. You will live with the choice. I know, Harry said. He bowed his head to Fia. Not a deep bow. Enough to mark a promise to listen. I am going to a castle, he said. When I come back, tell me your thoughts about that rune. I will, Fia said. Harry left the room. The hold breathed around him. A blacksmith worked at a forge in a vault off the main hall. The ring of iron on iron had the clean rhythm of a heart that had never learned to rush. The man working the hammer had chains at his ankles. He did not look up when Harry paused. Can you shape a blade from a promise? Harry asked. The question slipped out unplanned. The smith kept swinging. The iron under the hammer took a curve that meant experience. I shape what I am told to shape, the smith said. Bring me a thing that can be changed, and I will change it. Can you change me? Harry said. No, the smith said. That is your work, or her work. Harry glanced over his shoulder. Melina stood in the arch with the light at her back. The smith chuckled, a dry sound. Go on, the smith said. Castles wait for no one. Harry left the hold through the same warmth that had brought him. Cliff wind again, gold again. He did not hate it as much. He swung onto Torrent and settled with the small relief that came with a good seat and a clear plan. Stormvale, Melina said. He set his knees. Torrent moved. They cut a line along ruined road and hill and scrub. The castle rose fast from the ground as if the rock were proud. Flags snapped on the wind from broken poles. Men paced walls and looked down with more hope than skill. The drum at the gate that had been for courage the day before was for duty now. It sounded tired. The gate or the cliff path, Melina said. Harry watched the men, then the gaps in the stones. Cliff path, he said. I have no interest in being a banner for their horn. They moved under the wall in shadow. A side passage led into a narrow valley with boulders and old carts. A guard stood bored at a choke point. He leaned his weight on a spear and watched birds. Harry slid down from Torrent, led the animal with a hand on the mane, and closed the gap. Please do not make me do this again, he whispered. He shaped heat. He made the drop small and sharp and set it against the guard's spear hand. The man yelped, dropped the shaft, and grabbed his wrist. Harry stepped in, kicked the spear away, and pushed the man into a cart face first. He held him there with his forearm and dropped grit across his shoulders in a pattern that burned enough to teach and not enough to kill. The man sobbed, then stilled. Harry let him go and kept moving. Corridors, courtyards, arrow slots where the light came in thin as wire. He kept his head low and his feet quick. Twice he chose not to fight and it felt like stealing. Once he had no choice. A knight in heavy plate came out of a side door with a laugh that did not reach his eyes. The man raised a sword the size of a plank and filled the hall with confidence. Stand down, Harry said. The knight planted his feet, smiled at the wand as if at a child's toy, and came in on a straight line with the blade high. Harry raised his wand and his short sword at the same time. He threw grit at the eye slit. The man closed his eyes on reflex and still swung. Steel screamed against stone as the blade bit a pillar. Harry slid under the man's arm and drove the sword into the gap under the pauldron. The sound in his ears was breath and steel, and a small wet sound he did not learn. The knight dropped to one knee. Harry pulled the sword free, stepped to the side, and pushed a drop of heat into the open gap. The man went still. After that the castle seemed to decide to make him pay less often and more cleverly. He took a ladder up a tower and 3 men waited at the top with poles. They tried to push him back down the rungs. He let go, fell the last few feet, hit hard, rolled, came up cursing, and took a different tower. Melina moved with him in silence. She did not give orders. She did not offer praise. She did not slow him. At a high courtyard, wind cut clean through his shirt and made him aware of every wet line of sweat. Banners snapped like sails. A simple gate arched ahead with a fog that looked like smoke from a lamp. Harry wiped his face with the back of his hand and tasted salt and iron. "Margit," Melina said, quiet. "Is he a man or a word?" Harry said. "He is a test," she said. "You will learn something when he hits you. You may not like the lesson." Harry cracked his neck left and right. He knew he should be afraid. He was tired instead. He drew a slow breath. The bowl of light here was smaller, patient, steady. He set his palm to it. Warmth moved in. It would not make him brave. It did not need to. He stepped through the fog. The figure that waited on the far side was tall and thin and hard to follow with the eyes. Cloak, horns, tail, staff that was not only a staff. Margit's voice rang like iron nails in a bucket. Harry did not answer. He set his feet, lifted the wand, and made a choice. "Golden vow," he whispered. The words were not old Latin. They did not need to be. The wand drank his breath and returned it with a weight over his chest like a hand placed there by a trusted friend. His shoulders steadied. His ribs stopped registering complaint. Margit moved. The staff came down with a crack that turned stone to powder. Harry slipped to the right and felt the rush of air push at his ear. He snapped grit into the space Margit would step into and pushed a drop of flame low, at the ankle, not for pain but for position. Margit lurched. Harry took the opening and stabbed shallow at a tendon behind the knee. The blade bit and slid. Margit laughed. It was not a nice sound. The tail whipped, caught Harry across the back and threw him to his knees. The staff rose again. Harry rolled and the blow split the ground where his head had been. Shards flew. He felt one slice the skin of his cheek. Heat ran down into his mouth and tasted like iron. "Breathe," he told himself. He cut left. He kept his wand low and his sword high for once. He did not try to meet force with force. He snapped grit at Margit's eyes, then at the hand that held the staff, then dropped a short line of heat across the instep. Margit snarled and lashed out with a glowing blade that simply appeared in the other hand. It hummed like his wand but wrong. Harry met the blade on the flat of his own short sword and let the angle carry the strike past his hip. The weight of it shook his wrist. He answered with bestial sling in a thick stream, a swarm of hot grit like pebbles thrown with all his weight. The stream tapped and rattled against Margit's ribs. Not a kill, a demand for attention. It worked. Margit lifted the staff to block the grit. Harry stepped in and cut. Metal rang. Flesh gave way. Margit gave ground. The next minute was the same stew of sound and breath and pain, and it was enough. Margit's knees hit stone. Harry set his blade at the joint and pushed. The body went loose and then was gone as if smoke had decided to be honest. Harry stood bent at the waist with both hands on his knees. His breath came loud. Melina's hand came down light on his shoulder. He did not flinch. He did not look up. "That was a poor plan that you made work," she said. "I am very good at those," he said. He moved on. The fog at the far arch broke. Stormvale gave him more halls, more stairs, more men who did not know that fear can teach and that pride can kill. He took a narrow bridge with a drop that made his stomach lift. He took a courtyard with fire in iron bowls and ash ground into the stones in old gray waves. At the top of a long set of steps a man waited under a tree that the wind could not move. He wore grafted limbs like armor. His hands shook for want of more. "Godric." He drew a breath and let it out. Godric spread his arms as if to welcome a guest and began to speak. Harry heard the shape of the words and did not care for them. He set the wand flat against his sternum and spoke low. Golden vow. The warmth pressed into his chest again. He picked up his short sword and rolled his shoulders. Godric lifted an axe that looked as if it had eaten smaller axes and burped their handles. He came in with the weight of a man who had always believed that adding more parts was the same as becoming whole. The axe fell. Harry moved left and the blade bit stone. Chips left white marks on his boots. He flicked flame at Godric's elbow. The cloth there blackened. Godric laughed and swung the back edge across in a hook that would have taken Harry's head if he had not taken a full step back. The hook cut air. Harry stepped in at once. He drove his blade under the arm where the plates did not meet. The blade slid. Godric howled. The howl rattled banners and bad pride. "Come on then," Harry said through his teeth. Godric banged the axe against the ground. Plates clanged. A wave of wind pushed out and tried to throw Harry off his feet. He dropped lower and the wave passed over him. He snapped bestial sling in a tight pattern at Godric's face. The pellets pinged off metal. One found soft skin. Godric cursed and charged. The axe rose high. Harry waited a count too long on purpose and then slid under the swing and slashed at the back of the knee. He felt the tendon complain. Godric screamed an old family name and held out an arm toward the corpse of a dragon that lay propped like a trophy. The arm took root in scaled flesh. Magic howled. Fire bled from the new hand. The smell changed to coal and old bones. "Oh," Harry said. "Good." The dragon head belched fire. The first roar scraped his skin like sand. He raised his wand and moved heat where heat could help. Not to throw fire back. To make a shield that was not a barrier so much as shaped air that pushed the flame away from his face. It was not neat. It was not pretty. Kept him alive. He ran at an angle through the spray, felt his hair crisp, and came up near Godric's ribs while the man still exulted at his own improvement. Harry drove the short sword at the seam above the hip. A bit. Godric slammed a forearm into the side of Harry's head. The world flashed white. Harry fell to a knee. He spat blood and saw two axes. He chose the one on the left and rolled. Steel split air where his chest had been. He pushed with the wand and put a drop of flame into the dragon mouth as it opened for another breath. The mouth closed. The dragon arm recoiled like a man who had bitten a pepper. Harry came up inside the next swing and stabbed into a softer place under the ribs where a graft met flesh. He did not think about it. He did not think about anything but the next inch. He twisted and pulled out. Godric stumbled. Harry stepped back. He needed space. He counted breaths to 3 and let his wrist run through the words that made Golden Vow settle again. He felt the weight return. He felt the pain in his head draw back far enough to leave him a decision. "Stop stealing," Harry said. Godric spat a thick clump of blood and rage. "This is how a king is made," Godric snarled. "This is how a grave is made," Harry said. They moved together, axe and wand and blade. The fight found a rhythm that did not care about speeches. Harry took a cut along the forearm that went skin deep and bled warm. He let the blood run. It made his grip honest. He put grit into Godric's eyes again and again until the man had to blink like anyone else. He cut at the same tendon until he felt it go. Godric dropped to one knee. Harry had a second to make a decision and he did not waste it. He stepped in and put the short sword into Godric's neck where the plates did not meet. He pushed to the hilt. He twisted. He pulled out. He stepped away fast. Godric fell forward and hit the stone with a sound that was more heavy than loud. The dragon arm twitched once and went still. Smoke drifted away. Wind came back into the courtyard in a slow curtain. Harry stood very still with his chest rising and falling. He could hear the pulse in his ears. He could taste iron again. Something old and large reached for him. Not a hand. Not even a thought. Pressure. Pressed at the center of his chest. He looked down and watched a faint dull radiance crawl along his skin under his shirt as if the light were inside the blood. It moved into his wand arm and then into the wand itself. The wood hummed like a struck string. Harry wanted to throw it away. Instead he held on and let it pass. When it ended, he looked at the body. He felt nothing like triumph. He felt dirty. He felt heavier. He wiped his blade on a rag that had once been part of a banner and slid it back into his loop. He stood over the fallen man and said nothing at all. Melina walked to him. She had not spoken during the fight. She did not speak now for a long moment. "That is a shard of the ring," she said at last. "A great rune. It will make you stronger. It will also make you feel like iron around the heart. That weight is real." "I felt it," Harry said. "I did not like it." "No one should," she said. They left the courtyard by a door that had been closed for a long time. Steps led down to a hall with long tables covered in dust. A side room held chests. Harry did not touch them. He did not need trinkets. He needed air. They found a tower that opened to a balcony where the wind took the stink and gave back the smell of stone and rain. Harry leaned his elbows on the parapet and let his head hang for a breath. Melina stood beside him. She did not look at his face. She looked at the tree far off and at the road between. "You have questions," she said. "Yes," he said. "The wand, the runes, the strength. None of this is will alone." "It never was," she said. "Not even for you." He waited. She went on in that even voice that made him listen. "You carry a tool that once answered to a story about death," she said. "Here it is, a canal for raw law. It can channel any school that belongs to this place. To do that, your body and mind must be able to bear the strain. Runes are not coins. They are a measure of how much you have taken from this world and turned into a shape that you can use. And you will turn them into strength," he said. "That is what you offered." "Yes," she said. "Not command. Conversion. You cannot simply will a spell into being with a word. You must grow the vessel inside you that can hold it. You must choose what to grow. Faith or intellect," he said. "Fire and vow or stone and star. Or both," she said. "But never carelessly. Each choice has a cost." He lifted the wand and looked along the grain. "Can this switch from seal to staff?" he asked. "Can it carry prayer in 1 hour and study in the next?" "Yes," Melina said. "But not in the middle of a step. Not in the middle of a breath. You must rest at a light. You must set your intent. Then the tool will accept that shape until you ask again." "Not will alone," he said. She gave him a small look that might have been kind if she had allowed herself more expression. "You keep saying it like it is a new thought," she said. He snorted. It hurt and he did not mind. He looked at his hands. They were shaking again now that the need for steadiness had passed. "The rune," he said. "It felt wrong." "It is power that belonged to a piece of a god," she said. "Do not pretend that you can carry it without feeling changed." "How do I make sure it makes me into something I can live with?" he said, very quiet. "By remembering what you said to Fia," she said. "By speaking to those who have been stolen from. By choosing when to say no to the light." He held the wand out to her. She did not take it. "I do not change you," she said. "You change you. Sit with the light. Decide where to place what you took. I will help you set the shape. The choice is yours." He sat on the parapet with his back against the stone. He closed his eyes. He saw not a ring and not a tree but a spare dinner table in a small kitchen and a woman with rough hands who had once lifted a frying pan like a shield. He saw a red world inside a green world inside a black world, and he was tired of worlds that told him what to be. He opened his eyes. "Faith first," he said. Then thought, "I need to keep people alive. That includes me." Melina nodded. He felt the light come when she raised her hand over his head. It was not an order. It was a question that he answered yes. Warmth moved through him again. It did not make his scars smaller. It made his breath easier. He felt the wand settle in his palm as if it had gained weight without gaining mass. "You will feel hungrier for a time," Melina said. "Eat, drink, sleep when the tree will allow it. We have a plan for after this," he said. "Liurnia, the study of stones. The witch in the tower." "You have not met her," Melina said. "I have met enough like her to guess the shape of the room," he said. "Be careful with guessing," she said. "Sometimes it saves your life. Sometimes it cuts your feet from under you." He pushed himself up and rubbed his forearm where Godric's blade had cut. The skin had knitted enough to pull. The blood had dried. He flexed his hand until his fingers obeyed without complaint. "Round table first," he said. "Then the lakes." They went back through rooms that had already learned to let them pass. At the round table Harry stood with his hands on the scarred wood. Dee was nowhere in sight. Fia waited in her room with a small leaf folded in her fingers. She raised her head and smiled at him as if she had been sure he would come back. "You look heavier," Fia said. "I am," Harry said. "Some weights are worth carrying," she said. He nodded. He sat on the edge of the bed. She set the leaf aside and put her arms around him. He closed his eyes and breathed in smoke and linen and the faint smell of balm. When she let him go, he did not feel lighter. He felt steady. "I found a great rune," he said. "I will do something about the law that was stolen from you and yours. I will help you finish your work. Cannot say when. I can say I will do it." "I believe you," she said. Melina stood in the door and said nothing. The forge rang. Someone laughed far away in a way that had nothing to do with joy. The hold kept its secrets. Harry stood. He faced Melina. He set the wand on the table between them for a second, as if to leave it, and then took it back up again. "Make me into someone who can do what he says," he said. "I will help you do that yourself," she said. They went to the light. He set his hand to it. Warmth climbed. The cliff came back. The gold sky came with it. Torrent shook his head and snorted, as if to say that all this talk was well and good, and that roads did not ride themselves. Harry checked the strap on the waterskin. He touched the short sword and the simple loop. He set a hand to Torrent's mane and felt the old steadying thing it was becoming. He squared his shoulders and looked north. The air over the lakes was a different color, cool and thin. He could almost taste stone dust on his tongue. He let himself plan for glintstone study and did not decide what that meant. "Not yet." "Ready," Melina said. "No," Harry said. "Let us go anyway." They rode. The drum at Stormvale did not sound for them. The wind took the stink from the fight and left the bruises. The tree shone indifferent as always. Harry did not ask it for comfort. He did not refuse it either. When the road bent toward water and a wide plain, Torrent picked up his feet and found a faster rhythm. Harry let the animal choose the line. He kept his eyes on the next rise and on the ruin beyond it. He did not look back at the courtyard where a body cooled beside a dragon arm. He had work to do, and the weight in his chest to remind him that power is never free. He rode into the light and did not flinch. Mist came off the lakes like breath. The wind lost the smell of ash and found water, stone, wet grass. The road broke into causeways and small islands where reeds rattled against old wood. Harry rode with a slow hand on Torrent's mane and watched the light change from gold to a pale blue that made the big tree look farther away than it had ever seemed. They stopped at a ruined camp where a shallow bowl of light waited on a broken altar. Harry set his palm to it and felt the steady warmth move into his wrists and chest. The ache from Stormvale fell back a step. He took the wand in both hands and looked at the grain. "Seal or staff," he said. "Decide," Melina said. "Staff," he said. "I need reach and the shape for study." He pictured blue light that cut clean, a sharp line instead of a fist of fire. The wand answered with a thinner hum. It felt lighter in the hand, not weaker, like a knife balanced for a different work. He breathed out. The choice settled without a show. He liked that. A sound came over the water. Not a drum this time. A bell. Small. Measured. He listened until the sound told him distance and direction. North and west. He mounted and they crossed an old stone bridge that had dropped some of its teeth into the lake and kept the rest out of stubborn pride. On the far side a woman in rags was bent over a corpse with a glintstone shard in its chest. She did not look up as they passed. Harry felt the pull to speak and let it go. Not every grief needed a witness. He kept moving until grass gave way to a carpet of small blue flowers under cracked walls. A figure as tall as a house worked a forge at the edge of an empty road. Sparks jumped like fireflies at the giant's feet and died out on the stone. The giant looked up and the hammer paused. His helm was shaped like a face that had seen too much and had decided to be kind anyway. "Blacksmith E.G.," Melina said. Harry stopped a few paces away and bowed his head. Not a court bow, just a mark of respect. Can you teach a wand to be a staff? Harry asked. E.G. studied the wood. He chuckled once, a sound like a shovel in sand. It already is, E.G. said. But there is a way to help your hands remember. Sit. Do not bring war into this patch of flowers. Harry sat on a flat stone. E.G. set down the hammer and took up a small tool that looked like it had been made to lift a thought out of metal without breaking it. He did not touch the wand. He spoke instead, slow and patient. Hold it a finger higher, E.G. said. Let the wrist lead. Do not drag the tip with your shoulder. When you ask for a blade of light, do not think about cutting. Think about the space that needs to be empty, and the magic will remove what should not be there. Harry tried it. Nothing answered. He flushed, then tried again with the thought turned right way round. The wand warmed. A thin edge of blue formed and slid out from the tip like a line drawn by steady hand. It stopped at the length of a sword. The edge sang in quiet air. He cut once through nothing. The weight was right. He ended the line with a blink of will and the light went out. Carrion slicer, E.G. said. Good for quick hands and honest hearts. You will get cut while you learn. Do not take it personal. Harry smiled at that in a way he had not expected to. Thank you, he said. E.G. lifted the hammer again and the forge took back his attention. Go to the manor road when you are ready, E.G. said without looking up. Some who serve the witch will try to frighten you. Do not let them. She sits in a tower that does not need you, which is why she might accept you. They left the flowers with care. The road north cut through grass and water until it rose under a line of trees with long pale trunks. A drizzle began. It made dots on Harry's sleeves and turned the dust to paste. He did not mind. The wet settled his thoughts. A glintstone sorcerer stepped out from behind a broken wall on the left with a staff already lifted. The man's eyes were glassy with borrowed certainty. He traced a quick shape in the air. The first blue shard came at Harry's chest. Harry raised the wand and put the slicer out in a flat plane like a shield. The shard hit the edge and split into sparks that hissed when they touched wet ground. The sorcerer blinked, surprised. Harry closed 3 quick steps and snapped the slicer into a tight arc. The blue edge cut the staff in 2. He cut again to the right shoulder, shallow and neat. The man fell back and dropped to one knee. He lifted his hand in a plea. Harry stepped in, set the edge under the hand, and spoke. Drop it. The man dropped the broken staff and clutched the cut. Harry touched the slicer to the ground and let it go dark. Run, Harry said. The sorcerer ran. Harry watched him go until he became a moving dot in the mist. He flexed his hand. The grip felt clean. The simple sword at his hip stayed quiet. Melina's voice came soft. You chose a cut that would heal, she said. Not for him, Harry said. For me. They climbed a slope where the grass grew short under endless rain. A shape moved in the mist to the right. A wolf too large for any field Harry had known before this place. Then another. Then a third. He did not lift the wand. Torrent snorted and kept a steady pace. The wolves watched and chose not to test fortunes. Harry nodded to them as if to neighbors he might see again. At the crest the land changed again. Pines. Rock outcrops like old backs. A square gatehouse stood empty across a narrow path. Beyond it a road of black stone led toward a manor raised on a steep shelf, and behind the manor a tower that seemed to refuse the sky. Small blue lights moved on the road like moths. They were not moths. Marionettes hung from poles along the verge, and when Harry came close they shivered and spilled down with jerky grace. 6 small bodies, each with a blade and a needle mouth. They chattered. Harry's skin crawled. He did not speak. He set his stance and called the slicer. The first marionette bounded in with a sound like a toy dropped down a stair. He cut its legs and the strings that were not there. It folded like broken canvas. The second came for his face. He let it come and then swept a line that took both arms. It fell. The others hesitated. He flicked the wand and sent a thin shard of blue into the chest of the third. It pinned to the ground and twitched. Melina stepped past him and drew a short knife from her sleeve. She did not throw it. She met the fourth at the knee with a straight jab. The thing toppled. She finished it with one clean pull at the neck joint. The last two jerked together in a little dance that said simple code and no free thought. Harry stepped in and cut both heads. The road went quiet except for rain on stone and his breath. He ended the slicer. The wand cooled. He wiped wet hair back from his face. "Who hangs soldiers like dolls?" he asked. "Someone who wants you to dislike the place at the end of the road before you see it," Melina said. "Does she deserve the warning?" he asked. "Yes and no," Melina said. They went on. At the gate to the manor a figure of ash rose out of a sigil on the floor and swung a sword at air with a lazy grace that still would have split a man from collar to hip. Harry took a step back and let the phantom finish its pattern and sink away. "Sometimes the past cannot die here," Melina said. "Then we give the future better habits," Harry said. They crossed a courtyard where rain had polished the stone. A door answered to a light push and the hall beyond was empty in the way that feels full of old attention. Their footsteps spoke for them until a small lift took them to a room that was both simple and final. A doll sat in a chair by the fire with hands folded. The air had a taste like moonlight on cold iron. The doll raised its head. The voice that came did not belong to the small body. It belonged to the tower. "Warned were you?" the voice said, cool and clear. The road set a mood. "Good. I prefer petitioners who arrive with their eyes open." "Runny," Melina said, and stepped back a pace. Harry stood a little to the side of the chair and did not sit. He kept the wand low. He did not bow. "You will not put your head on the floor for me," the voice said. "Wise. I am not a god. I am a woman who refused a role that required a smaller soul." Harry met the doll's glass eyes. The line of the mouth was almost a smile and almost not, as if that choice would come later. "I have had enough of roles written by other hands," he said. "I am not in the mood to play any more." The head tilted a small degree. "You smell of lake rain, dragon smoke, and a piece of a ring," Runny said. "You killed a graft king and hated the taste. You touched death with your true hand and did not lie about the feeling. You follow grace but you do not trust it. You are the right kind of trouble." "Say what you want," Harry said. "Not the pretty version. The real one. The greater will medals," Runny said. "It treats this world like a favored dog. It rewards obedience. It maims those who think outside the trick. I will cut the leash. I will place this realm under distant law that does not care to touch, only to observe. I will make an age where choices do not bend under an unseen hand." "Freedom with indifference," Harry said. "Yes," Runny said. "That is cold," Harry said. "That is honest," Runny said. Melina spoke from the edge of the room. "Honesty can cut," she said. "So can good lies," Runny said without turning her head. "But I do not plan with lies. I plan with removal. Remove the god. Remove the hand. Remove the voice that whispers in dreams. Let men stumble and stand on their own." Harry thought of Fia and the men who mocked her. He thought of Dee and the old words that felt safe because nothing new had been asked of him while he spoke them. He thought of the horn at the gate and the drummer who owned that small courage. He looked at the doll again. "And death," Harry said. "What of laws that were stolen?" Runny did not blink. "I will leave death to the one who accepts it," Runny said. "Do not ask me to make an age of perfect mercy. Ask me to make an age where no hand pushes your head down while you choose." Harry breathed out. The tower held the sound and handed it back to him unbroken. He set the wand on his palm and let it hum. Then he let his truth out. "When I was a boy," he said, "a clever man made a plan with my life so that he could defeat a worse man. He loved me in his way and he still used me. I am done being used for any plan that only trades one leash for another." "Then we agree," Runny said. "I do not ask for a leash. I ask for a spine that does not bend when a god says please." The doll laughed once, bright and brief. The sound did not change the air. "I offer you work," Runny said. "Not worship. I offer you a place at my side when I raise the cold light. Speak plainly. Will you help me end the era of the fingers and their tired little dreams?" Harry did not answer at once. He looked at Melina. She watched him with the same even regard that had made the first accord possible. She did not nod. She did not shake her head. He looked back at the doll. He stepped closer and set the wand across both hands as if he were offering it without letting it go. I will not carry your word, he said. I will carry my own. If our words agree, I will stand with you. If you try to force love or loyalty, I will walk away. Runny's voice did not warm. It softened in a way that felt like respect. Spoken like one who knows the cost of false bonds. She said, Good. I accept those terms. Kneel if it pleases you. Do not kneel if it does not. Say the words that let us begin. Harry did not kneel. He bowed his head for a breath. I will help you break the hand on this world, he said. I will help you make distance between God and man. I will not burn the dignity of the dead to warm the living. I will not be anyone's puppet. Not yours and not theirs. Accepted, Runny said. The tower light thinned, then brightened. A breeze moved through the room though the windows were shut. The doll blinked for the first time and the movement was strangely human. Blade, Runny said, not loud. The room did not need loud. A shape rose from shadow in the far corner, tall and fur and iron. The wolf knight dipped his head. War Counselor E.G., Runny said. Footsteps that were almost silence approached, and the giant stooped in the doorway. He did not speak. He did not need to. These are mine, Runny said. They are your allies now that you are mine. Harry looked at Blade, then E.G. He did not make a speech. He gave them both the same short nod he had given honest teachers his first week at school. What do you need done? Harry asked Runny. Seek the road to the lost city below, Runny said. When the star falls, a door will open. Bring me what lies past that door. Do not ask for a map. If you cannot find a path, you are not the right man for this seat. Harry almost smiled at that. Almost. Then I will find it, he said. Runny's head tilted again, a small sign of approval that she did not give away cheaply. Before you go, she said, let us speak about what you are trying to do with that stick. Harry raised the wand. It is not a stick, he said. It is and it is not, Runny said. It is a story about death that decided it did not mind being a tool for other stories when asked with respect. You can carve the air with it. Good. You can set the laws of fire and stone into patterns that will answer. Good. Now learn to change state without losing breath. She explained a simple trick of stance and breath and intention that let him go from slicer to shard without a rest, once per fight, at a cost he could feel in his ribs. He tried it and it worked. He felt the cost and accepted it. She watched without praise. You will not please me with power, Runny said. You will please me with choices. He nodded once. He was not sure his throat would let him speak without sounding like he wanted something from her, and he did not want to carry that sound. He put words into motion another way. Spirit calling bell, Harry said. The wolves. The ash that remembers. Did you give that to me at the church and vanish before I could ask your name? The doll's mouth moved in that almost smile again. I was bored, Runny said. You looked like a stone that might skip far if thrown. I enjoy tests. Good to know, Harry said dryly. You are angry with me for that, Runny said. Keep the anger. Point it at anything that tries to make you small. Do not point it at the only ally in this place who tells you the price up front. Harry could not help it. He laughed once, cracked something hard inside and made room for breath. Melina, quiet until now, stepped closer to the fire. The light caught her face and softened the shadow of her hood. This plan of stars, Melina said. It frees the world from one hand. It places it under another, even if that hand does not touch. What of the ones who are stuck between? The ones who were not allowed to die? The ones stolen from their end? Runny did not hesitate. I will not sort the dead, Runny said. I will not be that kind of queen. If he wishes to mend that law, he will do it, and I will not move his hand away. Harry felt that line settle something he had not admitted to himself. He swallowed and spoke before the feeling could scatter. Then here is mine, he said. I will walk your road. I will help you cut the leash. While I walk, I will collect what is needed to place death back where it belongs. When the time comes, I will not let your new sky forget the ground. If those promises clash, we will argue, and we will do it with respect or we are done. We will argue, Runny said, and for the first time there was a trace of warmth in the voice. "That is why I chose you." She stood. Not the doll. The tower itself seemed to rise a fraction. The feeling of presence shifted from room to world. Harry felt the neck hair on his arms lift. Ronnie's attention settled on him like frost that did not bite. "You swore fealty without kneeling," she said. "You will be my consort if you earn it. You will be my friend if you prove you can hold the weight of that word better than the ones who came before. Go now. Find the door. Break the ground so that the star has a place to fall." The doll lowered its head. The presence withdrew to a watchful distance. Blade stepped forward with a grin that showed a row of sharp teeth that did not seem to belong to a courtier. "Good to have another who argues with her," Blade said. "Most pretend they agree and then die by accident when she is bored." "I do not plan to die by accident," Harry said. "None of us did," E.G. said from the door. They left the room. The lift took them down past stones that remembered other plans and other oaths. Outside, the rain had steadied into a soft sheet that blurred the trees and made the tower look taller. Harry stood under the arch and let water run off his hair and collar. He looked up at the window where No Face sat. Melina touched his sleeve. "You did not kneel," she said. "I have knelt enough in my life," he said. "Yet you promised a place at her side," she said. "I promised a fight worth having," he said. "And I promised to choose every step." They walked in silence back to the road. The marionettes had been swept aside by wind and rain and small animals that did not care about strange wars. At the gate, Harry stopped and looked out over the lakes. The mist had thinned. Far off, a line of stars was visible even in day. He could not tell if they were real or only light caught in water. He liked not knowing. It meant the sky was still capable of surprise. "Show me the trick again," he said to Melina. "The breath that lets me change shape once without rest." She showed him. He practiced until his forearm trembled. He stopped before he dropped the wand. They ate a little bread under a pine. The bread tasted like work, and he liked it for that too. "Tell me what you want from this," Melina said. "Not the mission. The thing at the core." "I want a world where boys do not die for plans they did not make," Harry said. "I want death to be honest again. I want power to sit down when it is told." Melina nodded. The answer seemed to satisfy her in a way his earlier speeches had not. They took the road that bent toward a narrow pass, then a wide plain of wet grass with low stones set like teeth into the earth. At the next small altar, he set his palm to the light and felt the choice he had made settle deeper. Staff shape, blue blade, thin shard, the feel of the new pattern in his wrist. The bell far off again, north and west, a small reminder that time was moving whether he hurried or not. He stood and looked at the line where sky and lake touched. He felt the pull of something waiting below the ground, a city under the world that had forgotten its own songs. He felt the new promise in his chest. He felt the quiet thread that ran between him and a woman who had decided she would not let any god write the end of her name. "Ready," Melina said. "Not yet," Harry said, honest. He smiled anyway. He wiped rain from his eyes with the back of his hand and tasted clean water and iron. Then he set his feet and stepped off the line the light offered by the smallest measure, just enough to keep himself honest, and went to find the place where a star might fall. The sky went thin above the lakes. A cool line of air slid across Harry's cheek as if the world had just taken a long breath. He felt it in his teeth. Torrent lifted his head and snorted once, then stilled, ears forward. "Feel that," Harry said. Melina watched the far ridge where cloud met water. Something shifted. "Not here. Under," E.G. said. "Find the road below," Harry said. "Let us stop guessing and start walking." They cut north and west through wet fields where blue flowers nodded at the ankles. The drum of Stormvale was only a memory now. The only sound was wind in reeds and the soft click of Torrent's hooves on stone. At a ruined tower of pale brick, Melina set a hand to a blank wall. Old lines answered her touch. A seam opened, clean and silent. "A lift," she said. "Very old. Do not jump. The floor will go away just to see if you are paying attention." Harry found a grin for that. It surprised him that he could. I am paying attention. They stepped into a round chamber with a floor that looked too thin to trust. The air dropped. Stomach followed. The lift fell in a steady, patient way that made time seem wider. Cold rose. The sound of water came out of stone at first like a rumor and then like a sure thing. The floor kissed bedrock and stopped without drama. They walked out into a cavern that held its own sky. High roof. Black river. Lamps like small moons hung along a path cut into the stone. The light was blue and the shadows were honest. The sound of the river filled the space between steps and sent it back. A small bowl of light waited on a ledge. Harry set his palm to it. Warmth climbed into his wrists. He did not feel braver. He felt contained in a way that made thinking easier. A little body lay beside the light. A doll. Runny's shape. Plain dress. Folded hands. He stared at it for a long second. Do not laugh, he said. Melina did not. Speak to it. Harry picked up the doll and set it in his lap. The wood was cool. The stitched mouth did not move. He waited through one breath. Then another. Runny, he said. If this is a test, I am already tired of it. Silence stretched. He looked at Melina. She raised her brow by the smallest measure and then looked at the doll again, as if to say, do the obvious thing. Harry put stubbornness aside and tried again.
Ranni.
If you want me to swing a sword in your name, you can say please like a person. The doll's voice appeared without the mouth moving at all. The sound came from the air just above his hands. Cool. Clear. There you are. I did wonder how many breaths it would take. Slay the hunter that shadows this river. It belongs to the fingers. It will try to cut you off from me. Do not allow that. Harry frowned. The baleful shadow. Yes, Runny said. Its blade is not the only danger. Carries a story about duty that feels safe if you are tired. Do not let tired men tell you what you are. Melina stood with her back to the cavern wall and listened. Her face did not change. I have a question, Harry said to the doll. And it is not about your enemy. It is about your brother. A touchy subject, Runny said. I found a script on the way down, Harry said. He set the doll aside and lifted a slate from the edge of the light. The letters were clean and small. A hand had cut them with care. It speaks about Miquella, about love that does not wait to be offered. Calls it a gift. It also calls it a tool. I know tools that pretend to be gifts. Silence, then a slow answer. Miquella is gentle to a fault. Miquella is also dangerous when he decides an end is kind. He can turn hearts. In the old wars, many wanted to be turned. Not all were asked. Harry kept his eyes on the script. Did he aim that at Radon? I hear a rumor about a king who would not serve the same throne twice. Radon wanted war more than love, Runny said. He did not bend. Others did. Your point stands. Harry let out a breath. If you ask me to free this world from one hand, do not expect me to stomach another. Not even a hand that calls itself mercy. You do not have to convince me, Runny said. I killed the part of me that would have accepted that bargain. The doll went still. The light hummed. Melina's voice came quiet. Satisfied. For now, Harry said. He set the doll on the stone with care. He stood, checked the strap on the waterskin, rolled his left shoulder to test an ache that had not fully left since Godric's courtyard, and picked up the wand. Staff shape settled into his palm. Blue hum. He nodded to Melina. Back soon, he said. I will wait here, she said. The river does not want me. Why? It wants you, Melina said, as if that were a reason that covered enough ground. Harry followed the path along the water. Lamps hummed. Mud sucked at his boots. Slugs the size of small dogs glowed on the rocks and blinked slow little blinks that did not care about kingdoms. He moved past them with care. Farther on, statues of men with downcast eyes lined a hallway that had once been bright. He kept his steps soft and counted how many empty hands he passed. The number did not matter. The counting did. The first attack came from a shadow where the path bent near a pillar. A blade whispered at his ribs. He turned and the line missed by a finger. He did not return a strike. He slipped back, lifted the staff and called the slicer without words. The baleful shadow stepped out of the dark like a reply to a threat you had not voiced. cloak, mask, a long blade that held no ornament at all. Red energy ran along the edge in a low pulse like a heart that did not care for company. His voice sounded like a stone dragged across stone. You do not belong in her service. You will leave the river. You will leave the witch. And you will what? Harry said. Put me to bed without supper. The blade moved as if the question bored it. Came in a straight line, no flourish. Harry cut it aside by the smallest margin and felt the weight of it at his wrist. His forearm sang in a way that promised bruises. He drew a quick breath and stepped in at the elbow with a short slice that would have ended a careless duelist. The shadow was not careless. It shifted 1 inch, the kind of inch that takes years to learn. The cut missed. The blade returned in a fast backhand that Harry met on the flat of his short sword. The clang rang all the way to his shoulder. He tasted iron. Breathe, he told himself. The shadow pressed. Not wild, not slow, steady. It wanted him to give ground until his back met stone. Harry refused. He cut left, set feet, and threw a shard of blue for the throat. It lifted the guard right where the shard went. The spark died on metal. The return came fast at his knee. He hopped back, then in and stabbed with the short sword for the ribs. The blade found a seam. The shadow twisted, and the cut became a line of blood that said shallow and annoying. Not enough. Leave, the shadow said. No, Harry said. The next exchange drove him sideways along the path. Water slapped at rock. A slug blinked and oozed backward as if it had seen this before and had no taste for it. Harry changed shape once, letting the slicer bleed into a tighter shard burst. A quick rain at close range that made the shadow shift its guard. In the gap, Harry hammered the short sword into the shoulder with everything he had. The tip slid under armor. He wrenched. The shadow hissed and shoved him back with a shoulder check that took the wind right out of him. He stumbled, caught himself on a pillar, brought the staff up in time to turn the next cut. The blade slid along blue light with a note like a saw on bone. He felt the hum inside his teeth. He threw grit for the eyes out of old habit. This thing did not blink. It took grit to the mask without complaint and came in again. Faster. Harry let survival replace pride. He called Torrent. Hooves in water. The horse should not have fit in this space. It did. Torrent crashed into the shadow's line with a hard hip that broke the rhythm. Harry used the brake. 2 fast slices, one high at the guard hand, one low at the ankle. The lower cut bit. The shadow shifted its weight and slowed for the first time. The voice did not change. You serve a traitor. I serve a choice, Harry said, and he meant it. The shadow's blade moved in a small circle. Took 1 step, then another, then lunged straight. Harry read the line and still almost lost his nose. He pulled his head aside and felt the wind of the cut across his cheek. He smelled his own blood. A sensible part of him wanted to back off and find a better spot. He taught that voice a new trick and did not move. Again, he said. They traded short, ugly work for a count of heartbeats that had no number. Harry's arms shook. The cut along his forearm from Godric tugged and complained. The scar on his cheek went hot. He lost the breath to speak and did not need it. He set his feet, cut the same tendon twice, stepped right instead of left, took a stab on the pauldron that would have opened him if it had landed square, and felt the shadow's strength ebb by a degree that a man would miss. He did not miss it. Stop, the shadow said. Say please, Harry said. And he drove the short sword through the seam at the base of the neck and up into the space under the mask. The body clattered to its knees and then to the floor. The sword rang once where it hit stone. The red pulse along the blade died like a lantern snuffed clean. A small black case fell from the cloak with a thud that carried weight beyond metal. Harry stood bent at the waist, hands on thighs, and breathed. Water ran in the black river. The slug blinked once more and went back to its business. Torrent snorted and shook. Melina was not there. She had stayed at the lamp as promised. Harry looked at the case. He did not touch it at once. He counted a slow 3, then went to one knee and opened the clasp with his thumb. Inside lay a low, dark blade without a hilt. It did not shine. It seemed to drink the light around it. In the metal, faint and mean, were tiny carvings of hands, each finger cut clean at the joint. Fingers layer, he said. The world did not argue with his guess. The doll's voice came from the air by his ear. Close enough to startle, steady enough to be a hand on the back. Good. Bring it. Harry shut the case. You could say thank you. I could, Runny said. A beat. Thank you. He almost laughed. He did not. He stood and felt the shake still in his legs. He rolled his shoulders. The left protested. He ignored it. He turned and walked back the way he had come. On the last bend the cavern light widened and the little bowl of grace came into view. Melina stood where he had left her. One hand on the wall. One leg bent to rest her foot on a bit of stone. You are bleeding, she said. Small cut, he said. Worse has already scabbed. He was better than the knights. No talk, only work. Did the work tell you anything you needed? She asked. That the people who follow the fingers do not plan to let Runny have this river, Harry said. That they will call duty mercy until the mouth of the lie wears out. She nodded. Will you give her the blade? I will give her the choice, he said. They took the lift up. The world above felt wrong for a breath. Too bright, too wet. Harry swallowed, and then the air sat where it should again. They rode to the tower and climbed. The room with the fire took them back like a place that keeps to its routines no matter how far you have walked. The doll sat where it had sat. Harry did not bother with ceremony. He set the black case on the floor and opened it. This cuts the fingers, he said. Something like them, at least. Is this what you wanted? Or is it the cousin of the thing you need? Runny answered without moving the doll's head. That is a shard of the tool I need. The city above the ground holds the rest. Nokron. You will find it after a falling star knocks a hole in the world. You can arrange that, Harry said. I arranged a war that will cause it, Runny said. A man made of gravity refuses to be a story with an end. When he finally falls, the star will fall with him. That is the hole. Harry rubbed the line of his cheek. It stung. Radon. Yes, Runny said. Do not touch him yet. Your legs still shake. I have other work for you while the sky prepares. Say what you want, Harry said. Carry that shard to a chest under my seal, Runny said. Keep the key. We will use it when the door shows itself. Then walk the river farther. There is a lake that rots and a city that remembers. Do not drown. Do not let the rot speak your name. I will try, Harry said, and he meant it. Melina watched the exchange with the same mild face that had kept pace with him since Limgrave. She spoke after a moment. Before we go down that road, you owe her a question. Or she owes you an answer. Harry looked at the doll and the fire and then at the spot in the air where Runny's attention felt strongest. Tell me what you will do with a world where the fingers are gone and the law of death sits back where it belongs. Tell me without music. Tell me in a sentence I can carry. Runny did not lift the doll's head. The voice came slow. I will make distance. Men will live and die without a god in the room. And if the dead call to you for comfort, Harry said. I will not answer, Runny said. Not because I am cruel. Because I do not want to be the next hand that thinks it needs to lift a chin for a man to see the sky. He let that sit. He tasted how it felt against his own rules. It was not warm, but it did not taste like a lie. Then here is mine, he said. I will place death back where it belongs. I will not let your stars forget it. When that day comes, I expect you to argue with me if I forget myself. I will argue with you if you forget the ground. Runny's answer was soft and, for the first time, almost human. Agreed. He sat on the floor because standing would have made a speech of the moment. He took out a strip of cloth and cleaned the cut on his cheek with water that stung. He wrapped it in 2 turns and tied it with a clumsy knot. Melina's hand came into his field of view. She picked the knot apart without a word and tied it again, neat and flat. Thank you, he said. She nodded once. Eat. He chewed bread that had gone hard. He liked that it fought the teeth a little. He drank. He stood. He picked up the case and the wand and looked at the doll. One more thing, he said. The road below held scripts about Maquella. Compelled affection. You heard my question. Hear the rest. If I find that trick at work in your house, I leave. Runny's answer came fast. If you find that trick in my house, burn it down and show me the ashes. He nodded. Good. He turned to go. The doll's voice stopped him. Harry. He looked back. The name in her mouth should have sounded odd. It did not. It felt like she had chosen to use it because it made the next words easier to say. You are not a petitioner, Runny said. You are a partner. Do not forget that when a soldier with a horn tries to make you stand in a line. If a soldier with a horn tries that again, I will move 2 steps to the left. I saw you do that, Runny said, and there was the faint curl of almost a smile in the air. He left the tower. Wind washed rain smell across the stones. The sky over the lakes had a thin pale band through the clouds. If someone had told him it was a star showing up in daylight, he would have believed it. Your face, Melina said as they reached Torrent, will not win a beauty pageant, he said. It will heal. She swung up behind him without a sound. You are better with the staff. E.G. was right, he said. Stop thinking about cutting. Think about what should not be there. Let the magic take it away. Use that on Pride too, she said. He snorted. Yes, dear. They rode south to a small rise with a ruined temple where Runny's seal worked the lock on a chest without being asked. Harry placed the shard inside and closed the lid. He pocketed the key. The metal felt colder than the air. From there the road bent to a cave where water fell in a thin sheet. The air below smelled old and sharp, like a cellar where someone had once stored medicine and never cleaned the shelves. Harry set his palm to a light and felt the yes of the place. Do you want me to come? Melina asked. The river did not want you, he said. This lake will want no one. I will wait at the last good light, she said. Call if your voice still carries. He nodded. If it does not, do not come looking. She did not argue. That helped. He took the wand and went in. The path opened onto a cavern that held a lake the color of a bruise. The surface moved as if something breathed under it. The air was sweet in a wrong way. It stuck to the back of the throat. Harry tied a cloth across his mouth and nose and changed his breathing without thinking about it. Shorter. Lower. He stepped on stones that had once been part of a road. They disappeared into the lake after a few paces. He broke a stick of resin and set it burning for simple light. The flame looked sick and held itself too close to the wick. Rot clung to the rocks in sheets. It reached for his boots in little threads that reminded him too much of human hair. He kept moving. He did not let it touch skin. He told his feet to think in dance steps he had never learned, and they listened. A hiss came from the far side of the cavern. Not an animal. Place where gas escaped. He listened to the timing so that he could move when the air was a little cleaner. In the gaps he heard something else. Not music. The memory of it. A city that he found a platform with a bowl of light. He set his palm to it. Warmth moved in and the ache in his shoulders backed up a step. The rot hissed again. He watched it and did not inhale until the sound ended. 2 shapes rose from the lake near the far shore, one after the other, as if the water had decided to try sculpture. They were people once. Now they were shells with eyes that had forgotten how to focus. Rot dripped from their fingers. Their steps left prints that steamed. Harry did not announce himself. He set his feet and called the slicer. The first figure came in a slow line, arms open, as if for an embrace. He cut both wrists to stop the reach, then took the head in a clean second cut before what leaked from the wrists could touch him. The body folded without sound. The second came faster. He cut the knee and then the throat, then stepped back quick and used a shard to pin the shoulder to a rock. Kept coming. He put a small drop of fire into the cavity of the chest. The burn was short and mean. The smell cut at the back of his tongue. He held the breath that was not there. He let it out. His eyes watered, and not just from the air. I hate this, he said. And there was no one near enough to ask him to be brave about it. He moved on. The cavern narrowed, then widened into long halls with pillars carved to look like they had grown there. He saw marks cut into a wall at shoulder height. Not letters. Not art. Lines made by hands counting days that had stopped. He put his palm against the stone for a breath, and then went on before the gesture could turn into something that trapped him. He took a lift up into a city that had been built like a promise. Tall stairs. Squares with dry fountains. statues that looked toward a palace where nothing waited. Blue fireflies drifted over stone. The rot was thinner here, but it lived in the seams. He watched his steps. He kept his hands inside his body. No careless touch against a low wall. No lazy hand on a pillar while he looked for a door. The door he needed was guarded by two figures in silver that had once been knights. They moved in a way that told a clean story about training and pride and the last day they remembered before the lake reached their boots. Harry spoke first. "Move. I do not want to cut you." They did not move. He gave himself permission to feel tired about that. Then he set his feet and did the work without anger. The first knight opened with a pole thrust that would have split him open if he had pretended to be brave. He let the thrust pass, cut the shaft, stepped aside, and stabbed at the joint where the collar met the breast. The tip bit. The second knight swung a curved blade with a whistle of fast air. He caught it on the flat of his short sword and shoved it left with a hard twist of the wrist that had made more than one opponent overcommit. That worked here too. He went under the arm and put a shard into the back of the knee. The knight dropped. He finished the first with a slice across the throat that he did not enjoy and did not delay. He finished the second with a thrust under the chin. He held the body until it stopped moving and then set it down. He did not say a prayer. He did not know which one belonged. He let silence be the only honest word in the room. Past the door, the hall ran to a dais where a statue of a tall woman held a blade that was wrong in the hand. The style did not belong to her. The work on it matched the case in his pocket. The air around it pressed against the skull in a way that made thought slow. He took one step and then another. He did not touch the blade. He touched the base of the statue where a small plaque sat in a groove. Carved there was a simple line in the same careful hand that had made the script by the river. A warning not to thieves, but to those who would remake law with tidy hands. Harry read it twice and walked away before the words could molt into instructions. On the way back through the square, a boy with rot at the corners of his mouth stood up from behind a fountain and raised a stone knife. He could not have seen 16 summers. He shook like a man in the snow. "Stop," Harry said. "Put it down. I am not here to hurt you." The boy took one step and then stopped as if he had remembered something that frightened him more than Harry. He kept the knife up. He made a wordless sound. A breath shaped into a plea that had no language in it. Harry gave ground the length of one breath. He put the staff down until the tip touched the flagstones. "I am going back the way I came," he said. "If you pass that way after I am gone, you will find bread at the light. Do not follow my path. The lake eats men. It will try to eat you twice." The boy swallowed. He lowered the knife by a finger. Harry did not wait to see if the blade hit the ground. He left, step steady, back prickling until the fountain hid the boy from sight. At the last turn he allowed himself a small look over his shoulder. A thin arm reached into the bowl of light. A hand snatched the bread and disappeared. He made the lift. The lake breathed behind him. He came into the cave where the air almost counted as clean and found Melina sitting with her back against the wall. Head tipped back, eyes closed. She opened them when he stopped near her boots. "You reek," she said. "Rot," he said. "You did not drown," she said. "I did not," he said. They did not embrace. They did not touch. They sat within reach of it and let the comfort live as a possibility on the floor between them. "Runny," Melina said after a minute. "Still telling the price up front," Harry said. "I can live with that." He told her about the boy. He told her about the statue and the plaque. He did not repeat the words. He did not want to make them true more than once. She listened in that still way of hers. "Do you blame me for serving purpose?" she asked. "No," he said. "I would blame you for hiding it." "I try not to," she said. They stood. He felt like he had been wearing a pack full of wet stones for a day. He said yes to the light and let it take one stone and no more. They walked out of the cave into a rain that had washed the taste of metal from the air. He looked south, to the line where he knew a battlefield slept inside a festival, and north, to where the sky would split when a man fell. He did not make a grand promise. He checked the tie on the cloth at his cheek again and made sure it would not come loose in a fight. He tightened the strap on the case in his pocket. He rested a hand on Torrent's neck and felt the animal breathe. When they reached the tower, the doll was not alone. Blade sat by the fire with a mug in his hand and a tired grin that showed too much tooth to be civil and too much honesty to be a threat. Iji's shadow filled the arch. "You picked a fight with the river and came back with all your parts," Blade said. "Good sign." "Shadow tried to recruit me," Harry said. "I said no." "Runny picked the right man," Blade said and lifted the mug. Harry set the case on the floor. He did not open it. He looked at the doll. "We do this next. I will not take on Radon with grit and a short sword while still chewing rot. You said I had other work first. Name it." Runny's voice moved through the room. "You will carry that shard and keep it safe. Then you will rest. Then you will go to the Star Scourge when he calls for a dance. Do not try to impress him. Try to survive him. The star will do the rest." Blade slapped the table. "That is the spirit." Harry met the Wolf Knight's eye. "If he falls and the sky falls with him, I go to Nokron. I take the blade that finishes the argument with the fingers. Then we talk about a wedding." Blade cocked his head. "A what?" Harry realized what he had said and snorted. "Figure of speech. Ask your lady what it means." Runny did not rise to the joke. "Bring me the blade. We will argue, then we will write the next page." Melina rested her shoulder on the stone by the arch, content to listen. Harry went to the fire and let heat find his hands. He watched the flame bend and settle. He spoke without looking at anyone. "Miquella," he said, "if I find him and he uses that gift on me or on anyone here, I will cut it out of the air around him. I do not care what pity he has earned. I do not care how soft his voice is." Blade made a low approving noise. Iji folded his arms. The doll's answer was a small yes. "Good," Runny said. Harry looked up. He caught Melina's eye. She inclined her head, a small mark of agreement he had learned to value. Blade stood. "I am headed east to see if the festival talk is real or just men trying to turn boredom into music. Come when you can stand on your feet without looking like your knees want to argue. We will drink something that burns and then try not to die for sport." Harry shook Blade's forearm, felt the iron under the fur, and believed, for one small second, in a simple future where men could make jokes without weapons in reach. He turned to the doll. He did not kneel. He did not make a speech. He set 2 fingers to the little wooden hand and bent his head just enough to make it clear he understood what this was. Not worship. Trust on a short leash held by both ends. "Good night," he said. "Sleep," Runny said. "Dream of nothing that asks you for a promise." He went to the small room at the back of the tower. Melina followed and sat on the floor with her back to the wall while he lay on a pallet that had learned a lot of men. He rolled to face the stone and stretched his fingers against the rough. He tried to shape a spell without the wand. Habit. It did nothing. He was oddly glad of that. "Do you miss the green light?" Melina asked in the dark. "No," he said. "I miss not knowing what came after it." "Tomorrow," she said. "Tomorrow," he said. He slept. The tower watched. The river ran under stone. Somewhere in the east, men told each other the same story about a hero on a red horse, and the sky got ready to fall. Roots pressed in from every direction. Wet bark. Cold air that tasted like old coins. Harry slid sideways through a gap where 2 trunks had grown together and landed on a ledge slick with moss. The cavern below breathed. Not wind. Something heavier. A pulse. "Deep root," Melina said behind him, voice low. "Keep your steps small. This place wants to steal ankles." "It can have mine after I am done with them," Harry said. He dropped to the next ledge, knees bending, hand braced on a root as thick as a cottage beam. Light trembled ahead, blue and weak, from fireflies that clung to fungus. Far below, black water moved under a mat of pale leaves. The air carried a smell like lilies left too long in a room with the windows shut. A shape climbed the trunk to their left. Hands. Too many. Fingers long and gray. It hauled itself over the lip and opened a mouth full of small teeth that had never learned how to chew. Harry's wand was up before the thing even hissed. He set a thin blue slicer into its wrist and took the hand off clean. The creature scrabbled. He cut the other hand and then the neck. Fell without sound. Melina waited until the body hit the leaves below with a soft thump. Those who live in death are restless here. I know, Harry said. His chest felt tight and not from the climb. Let us find Fia. They moved along a route that had grown out over the water like a bridge built by something that did not care about men with boots. At the far end, a stone platform rose out of the black pool. A narrow stair went up into a chamber of roots woven into a ceiling that looked like a cathedral that had decided to be honest about trees. A bowl of light sat there. Fia sat beside it. She looked the same. Calm face, tired eyes, hands steady. She stood when she saw them and held her arms open the slightest bit. A question rather than an order. Hello again, she said. You look thinner, dear. I have been arguing, Harry said. It burns more than running. Fia's smile reached her eyes for a second. Then it faded. She looked past him into the dark, as if listening for boots. He followed you down last time, she said softly. The hunter. He is not here, Melina said. Not yet. Fia stepped close. May I? Harry nodded. She hugged him. It was the same as before and not the same. Before, he had accepted warmth. Now he brought something with him and she felt it at once. She drew back and put her palm against his chest, light as a feather on a bowl's rim. You carry an answer, she said. Not all of it. Enough to finish the first part. I have what you asked for, Harry said. He did not name it. The name would have made the room colder. Fia nodded once. She moved to a stone slab set into the wall. Carved into it was the half-face of a man whose eyes did not open. Root had grown through bone and skin and turned them into the same thing. It was not a pretty sight. Harry stood and faced it without looking away. Godwin, Fia said. The first without death. He can still feel. He cannot finish his feeling. Harry swallowed. What do you need from me? Guard, Fia said. Truth. When I falter, say what you believe about ends. Then say nothing. I will do the rest. Footsteps sounded on the stair. Measured. Iron on stone. Dee stepped into the chamber with his shoulders squared and his mouth set. I warned you, he said, looking at Harry. Then at Fia. You do this here and the stain will spread. Harry moved between them. You call her a stain. You are wrong. Dee took one more step, stopped at the edge of the light, and looked at Melina. You stand with this. I stand where I choose, she said. Dee took a breath through his nose. Stand aside. No, Harry said. Dee's hand came up fast. Harry had the angle. He knocked the blade away with the wand, stepped in on Dee's hip, hooked behind his ankle, and put him on his back hard enough to knock air out of him. The knife skittered. Dee rolled and came up on one knee with a short sword in his hand and murder in his eyes. Harry set the slicer and held it close to Dee's throat without touching skin. Do not make me choose, Harry said. You will not like the choice. Dee's jaw worked. She ruins law. She restores an end, Harry said. You hunt corpses because a god stole what should have been theirs. Fix the theft. Then pick jury duty. Dee stared at him. The blade in Harry's hand did not waver. Dee's eyes dropped to the light. He looked at Fia, who had not moved or spoken. He stood without thrusting the point. He sheathed the sword with a controlled shove. He picked up his knife. He did not look at Harry when he spoke. If she curses this place, I will come back, he said. If she mends it, you can come back and apologize, Harry said. Dee's jaw clenched once. He turned and left. The sound of his steps went down and away. Melina let out a breath he had not heard her take. Fia touched the slab. Thank you, she said. You do not owe me thanks, Harry said. She looked at the sleeping face in stone. He does. She reached into the folds of her dress and took out a small thing wrapped in cloth. When she unwrapped it, the air in the room went sharp. A mark lay there, cut into a disc of pale something that had once been soft. The shape of it made the eyes want to look away. Give me your hand, Fia said. Harry opened his palm. She set the disc into it. The wand hummed, loud and flat, as if to say, careful. He nodded. He did not flinch. He turned his hand and set the disc into a slot at the base of the slab. It fit like it had been waiting for that exact breath. The roots shivered. The blue fireflies went still in the air. Fia spoke without chanting. Her words were simple things about doors and sleep and bed linen. She leaned her forehead against the stone and closed her eyes. The slab warmed under Harry's palm. He felt it through thick skin and callus. He spoke when he saw her mouth falter. An end is not a failure, he said. It is a promise that life told the truth while it was here. Fia's lips moved. Thank you. Something changed. The pressure in the room eased like a band cut from a wound. Harry felt the release pass through his chest and out his back like a cold hand. He did not gasp. He held still and let it go. Fia's shoulders dropped. She turned. There was a small object cupped in her hands now, dark and soft-looking, like new bark. A mending rune, she said, voice low with effort. Life within death. It is not a way to hide from end. It is a way to make the law honest again. Harry took it. Warmth moved into his fingers. The warmth of a sleeping child, not a forge. He set the rune against his chest. It sank. Not into skin. Into decision. Fia swayed. Harry caught her elbow. She smiled. Do not worry. I am only tired. You will sleep, Melina said gently. Fia nodded. She sat, folded her hands, and leaned back against the roots. Her eyes closed. Her breath slowed. Harry watched until the rise and fall steadied. He did not say goodbye. The word was too thin for the room. The bowl of light pulsed once, twice, then dark, then bright again. Melina looked up. Do you feel that? She asked. Harry did. A tug on the inside of the ribs, as if the world had just pointed with a finger and said, there. Cold air threaded the chamber without moving the leaves. A low sound rose from deep below the roots. Not water. Stone grinding its teeth. Something wants me, he said. Crumbling Ferrum Azula, Melina said. The shadow that holds death is awake. He looked at Fia. Stay with her. Melina's mouth set. I will. He squeezed Fia's shoulder once, as if the motion could travel into sleep. Then he stepped into the bowl of light. It did not climb him. It fell through him like a trapdoor opening in the wrong direction. Ruins spun in slow circles around him, as if the air were water and the stones were lazy fish. Red lightning scratched the sky and did not bother to find ground. Wind pulled at his shirt and shoved him toward a staircase that had no business standing. He landed on it with a shock in his ankles. Crumbling Ferrum Azula. Towers broken sideways. Bridges torn and reattached by bad memory. Drakes circled in the distance like thoughts a man cannot get rid of when he wants to sleep. In the middle of it, a temple without doors, just pillars and open air and a floor black with old ash. Beasts prowled the outer halls. Not wolves, not men, something in between. Harry did not entertain them. Slicer, clean cuts, step in at the elbow, through the ribs. No words, breath measured. He moved through them like a man late for an appointment. The appointment waited at the far end of a long hall, in a court where red wept from the sky and stained the floor without leaving wet. A figure stood there in a ragged robe, head bowed, hands cupped at a black altar. The smell in the air was smoke and old book leather. Beast clergyman, Melina had called him in a whisper once. In a story about a man's shadow that was not only a shadow. Harry took 3 steps in and stopped. The figure did not turn. It spoke like a knife on stone. Who comes to the place of the blade? Harry, he said. Master of death, where I am from. A man who has spent too many years listening to plans. The figure turned. Face like a carved dog, but not a dog. Eyes that had learned to grieve without water. A curved dagger in one hand that looked like night with an edge. Death is not yours, the clergyman said. It is mine to hold shut, mine to guard. I ate it once to stop a queen from breaking. You locked it away, Harry said. Look around. That lock did not make peace. It made rot. The dagger flicked up with no warning. It crossed the space between them in a blink. Harry was already moving. The blade skimmed his shirt and opened a line across his chest that burned like a brand. He did not give ground. He set the golden vow low and quiet. Heat pressed into his sternum and steadied his legs. The first minutes were work. The clergyman moved like a man who had been practicing the same set for years and had perfected every small motion. Cross, slash, low cut, a handful of black knives thrown with no tell, angling for the gut and the throat. Harry stepped, turned, batted the blades off the flat of the slicer. He cut fingers where the grip opened. He stabbed low at the hip joint and felt the tip skid on something that was not bone. Breathe, he told himself. Count. He switched once, slicer to shards, and peppered the chest. The clergyman shrugged it off and came in under the pattern with a thrust that would have opened Harry from belt to breastbone if he had stopped to admire his own aim. He did not. He stepped inside and took the shoulder with the short sword. Blood came, dark and slow, and stopped before it could run. Not natural. The clergyman's mouth pulled back from his teeth. His next words came out as a growl with words inside. I will not let you free it, he said. I am not asking, Harry said. The world twitched. The wind changed. The clergyman's skin shed the pretense of a man. The robe tore. The shape that rose out of it was tall and black and fast. Malekith, the black blade. The dagger was a sword now, the edge darker than any knight Harry had known. It hummed in the air, and the sound made his knees want to kneel. He did not. The first cut was nothing but a line. It carved a stripe across the stone where Harry had been standing, and the stripe did not stop. The rock began to die along it. Pieces fell off the edge and crumbled to dust before they hit the floor. Something like that reached for his ribs from the inside where the earlier cut had been. He gritted his teeth and did not let his breath turn into a grunt. Finality, Malekith said, voice deep and flat. Do you know it? Yes, Harry said. Better than you. Malekith lunged. Harry met the blade at an angle and felt his arm want to stop working. He made it work. He let the hit slide past and answered with a clean cut to the back of the knee. Malekith took it and did not slow. The return swing was a black arc that sang the note of endings. Harry ducked and felt hair lift. He could not dodge forever. He did not plan to. He needed one thing. A clean line. A place to put the wand where the world would listen. Melina, he said under his breath, though she was not here. Do not come. He raised the wand. He did not speak the words he used for sorceries. He put the tip against his own chest and pressed until the wood hurt. The elder wand answered with a sound he had not heard before. A low, simple tone that sat in the bones. He pulled it away. The tip was dark, not with ash, but with a thing that was not color at all. Malekith saw it. The monster shifted. Fear touched those old eyes for the first time. It made him faster. He came in with 3 cuts that forced Harry back. Then a leap that would have cut a taller man in half. Harry slipped inside the arc and felt the wind of it snatch at his ear. He stabbed up under the ribs and pushed the tip into black flesh. The wand's darkness touched the wound. The sound that came from Malekith was not pain. It was recognition. The blade came down wild. Harry rolled. The stone where he had been turned into powder and blew away. His left forearm screamed. He did not look at it. He stood and faced the thing he had stabbed. End, Harry said. He did not shout. He did not make a speech. He pointed the wand. The dark on the tip jumped, not as light jumps, but as a decision travels through a crowd. It went into Malekith along the line of the cut and ran through him like a fuse that did not burn so much as remove. Malekith staggered. He swung once more on pure habit. The edge clipped Harry's shoulder. Heat burst down his arm. He did not drop the wand. End, Harry said again. The dark in the wand jumped a second time and the temple went quiet. Not silent, quiet, as if noise had been a habit and someone had asked it to sit down for a minute. Malekith fell to one knee. He put a hand on the floor to hold himself there, and the stone under his palm died into dust. He looked up at Harry. The eyes were old and sane. You will break something when you do this, he said. You do not know which thing yet. I know, Harry said. It is time. Malekith's mouth moved in what might have been a small smile if his face knew that shape. Good. Then do it. Harry stepped forward and touched the wand to the center of Malekith's chest, very lightly, as if tapping a window to get someone's attention without waking the house. He did not push. He did not pull. He made himself into a channel and let the law pass through. The world blinked. The red in the sky went out for a heartbeat. Every bowl of grace from Limgrave to the Hallock-tree guttered and then caught again. Wind stopped on cliff edges and pendulums paused in empty churches. Far below the roots, in a chamber where a woman slept with her back against a tree, a breath went out of her chest and came back easier. In a field near a small village, a body that had walked without knowing why lay down and stayed down with its hands folded. At the foot of the Erd tree, a priest forgot the second half of a prayer and felt relief for reasons he could not name. Harry felt it pass through him. It hurt, not cut, not bruise, hurt like cold held in the chest too long. The wand vibrated, then settled. The hum inside his arm calmed. He realized his teeth were clenched and made them stop. He let out air. Malekith fell. The black blade hit stone and broke along its own edge without sound. The body shivered once and then went still and small, like a story run to its last line. Harry staggered back 3 steps and sat down hard on the floor because his knees asked him to do that and he wanted to be kind to them. He stared at his hands. They shook. He put the wand across both palms and looked at it the way a man looks at a tool that has just revealed it can do something he had not put on the list. "Are you hurt?" Melina's voice said. Not in his ear. In his head. Not a trick. Not a spell. A thing the world allowed for a second while the air still remembered how to be quiet. "Not dying," he said. "I let death loose. I felt it," she said. "Fia sleeps." The hold did not crack. "That is a good day," he laughed, short and breathless. "For some value of good. Come back," she said. "Before the drakes remember they are bored." He stood. His shoulder throbbed where the blade had kissed him. His forearm bled through a rent in the sleeve. He pressed his palm over it, muttered a small fortification, and felt the flow slow. He looked once at Malekith's body. He said nothing. He left the temple and walked across floors that had forgotten how to fall for a few minutes. He found the bowl of light near a broken arch. He set his hand to it and did not ask where it would send him. He trusted that he had earned a trip out. Deep root took him back. Wet air. Root smell. Fia still breathing slow. Melina sat on the floor with her knees up and her hands around her shins. She stood when he appeared. Her eyes went at once to his shoulder, then to his face. "You did it," she said. "I did it," he said. "Sit," she said. He sat. She cleaned the shoulder with water that stung and tied it with a strip of cloth that had seen better days. He watched her hands. They were small and strong. When she finished, he leaned his head back against bark and looked at the ceiling of roots. "The law is loose again," he said. "Finality is back in the room." "Yes," Melina said. "The Golden Order felt it. They will not admit it with their mouths yet. Their hands will." He swallowed. "I cannot go home." She was quiet a breath. "Say it again." He did. "I cannot go home. Not for a visit. Not for a fall break. If I carry this through the seam, it changes the rules on the other side just by being there. It will pull at things that were sleeping and wake them. I will not do that to them." Melina watched him without pity. He was grateful for that. "That is the right call," she said. He rubbed his chest where the wand had pressed. "I thought the Hallows made me a story about death. That was neat. A lesson in a cloak and a stone and a stick. This is not neat. It is bigger. It touches everything I walk past." "You are still a story," Melina said. "Just not a small one." He huffed at that. "I do not want to be an epic." "Too late," she said, and there was the smallest trace of a smile. He let himself breathe in and out twice with his eyes shut. The pain in his arm settled into the kind that would let him sleep. The ache in his shoulder promised to complain tomorrow and not ruin today. He opened his eyes and looked at Fia. "She is not dead," he said. "No," Melina said. "She is resting. Heavy work makes heavy sleep. Dee will come back," he said. "Then we will speak to him again," she said. He stood, slower than he might have liked. He checked the wand, ran a thumb down the grain, and felt it answer with that low tone. Not power showing off. Power taking stock. "What now?" he said. Melina tilted her head, listening to something he could not hear. "The world will shake again soon. Men are gathering to watch a star fall. Your wolf friend went to pour drinks and call it a festival. Radon, Harry said. I know, you are not ready to dance with him tonight, she said. No, he said. But I do not want him to wait long. The city below is holding its breath. He walked to FIA. He crouched and spoke near her ear, not loud. I did my part. You do yours. When I come back, tell me what to do with the pieces. FIA's breath moved in and out. Even. He stood. He looked at the slab and its sleeping face. He did not bow. He did not touch it. He nodded once, firm, like a promise made without witnesses. They climbed. Roots turned into stairs. The close air became air he could live in. Torrent waited at the top as if someone had explained patience to a horse and the horse had chosen to accept the lesson. Harry scratched his neck. Torrent blew warm breath over his wrist. At the lift, Melina spoke without looking at him. I am proud of you, she said. Do not start, he said, a little raw. It is not worship, she said. It is a report. He snorted. Fine, they rose. The world above greeted them with a sky that had lost a little of its gold. The change was small. Ordinary men would not notice it. Harry felt it like a shift of weight in the hands of a man carrying a coffin. They rode toward open ground and the line of dunes that marked the road to Eleden. Blade would be somewhere near a pile of cracked banners, arguing with a knight about the value of honor when a meteor is heading for your head. E.G. would be in the flowers with his hammer, counting the beats between storms. Harry rolled his shoulder and made a face when it reminded him that it was not impressed with his choices. He let the pain be what it was. He kept his voice steady. After Radon, he said. Nokron, the blade for Runny. Then we argue with stars. Melina nodded. And you carry a rune for the dead. I do, he said. He touched his chest where the warmth Saturday. I will not drop it. They crested a rise. The wind off the east carried dust and the faint clang of men building a party for a war. Somewhere far away, a bell rang twice, slow. Fewer of the living dead walked the roads. He did not smile about that. He let the relief sit next to the ache and did not ask them to fight. Harry, Melina said as the path bent. When you struck him, did you enjoy it? No, he said. I enjoyed the quiet after. Good, she said. They rode down toward the place where men had decided to meet a god's mistake with music and drink. The sky held steady a moment longer, as if it had taken a breath along with them. Then, far off over the red wastes, something moved that would change maps. Harry did not look away. He pressed his hand flat over his chest, felt the steady, sober beat, and said one small thing to himself that no one else needed to hear. Do not miss. Snow falls sideways at the edge of the halleck tree. Wind cuts through armor and cloth. Sap drips in slow beads from a branch the size of a tower and freezes before it hits bark. The whole city hangs under the great trunk like a nerve. Harry sets his palm to the grace at the drainage channel and feels the warmth go into tired bones. His shoulder aches where Malekith kissed him. His forearm hums in small angry pulses. He checks the wrap. Dry. He flexes the hand. Serviceable. Melina watches the frozen waterfalls. You know what waits. I do. You can still turn toward the mountaintop and pretend we forgot the way. He snorts. That would be the first time I learned to forget. I had to ask. She steps closer and lowers her voice. If the rot touches your eyes, stop. Do not be heroic. Call me. I will pull you out by the hood. Understood. She reaches up and sets 2 fingers under the knot on his cheek to check the old cut. Her hand is warm. Try not to add a matching one. I'll do my best. He breathes on his hands and makes the elder wand into a staff again. Blue hum. A thin edge is ready if he calls it. The dark moon blade, the great sword that drinks light, sits across his back. Wrapped, quiet. He feels its weight like a promise. Stay, he tells Melina. I will be here, she says. Say the word if you need a door. He moves. Clean wrought knights wait in the narrow. Their spears ring on stone. The first thrust is a straight line for his ribs. He beats it aside and slices the wrist. Metal shrieks. He steps past a second thrust and drives his short sword up between plates. The knight gurgles and folds. The last one advances behind a round shield. Harry puts a glintstone shard into the knee gap. The night drops. 2 cuts. Quiet. The wind threads rot into the air like sugar into tea. It is sweet and wrong. He ties a cloth over his mouth and nose. He takes flame, cleanses me into his throat and sets it low. Ready. He hates the taste of it. He likes the way it clears lungs. Steps. Hall. The lift that rattles down toward a chapel full of birds and statues and the quiet crackle of things going bad. His boots sound wrong on wood. His breath sounds loud. Crimson Aeonia stains the garden ahead like a wound that never shuts. The blossom is a crater. Spores rise in thin sheets. He tastes penny and old hay. She stands at the edge. Melnia turns when he stops at the last paving stone. Bare feet. Blade at her side. Hair the color of old straw pulled back from a face that looks like it has decided not to remember comfort. The eye-band stays fixed. Her free hand flexes once. Petals catch on her knuckles and burn. Another, she says. Calm. Not bored. Certain. Harry, he says. I am Melnia, she says. Blade of Miquella. I know. Silence holds one breath. You do not kneel, she says. I do not kneel. You should. It saves time. It also wastes dignity. Her mouth moves. Could be a smile. Could be a muscle that forgot its job. You smell of a law I used to respect. You smell like a god that should have stayed outside. Miquella is love. Miquella compels devotion, he says. Love does not need a rope. That lands. Her jaw tightens by a small degree. You speak from ignorance. Then show me I am wrong. Without compulsion, she raises the katana. I will show you strength. He raises the staff. Last question, he says. Do you know when to stop? Never, she says, and she is already moving. The first exchange is speed. She is a line without waste. He keeps the slicer short and flat. Her first cut hisses past his shoulder. He counters with a cross slash to test distance. She reads it and is not there. Her return lands on the flat of the staff with a metal scream that runs into his teeth. He slides it off and shoves with his left forearm. She floats back a foot. Feet silent. No breath noise. Good, she says. She steps. Waterfowl. He recognizes the wind shift and launches a dragonfire burst in a short, angry cone at the floor between them. Heat slaps air. She checks the glide and changes angle. He rolls under the first arc. The second comes low. He jumps it and blocks the third with the short sword, both hands, arms shaking. Sparks pop against his cheek. He eats a flask and spits flame. Cleanse me through his teeth. The air tastes cleaner for a second. Fire, she says. Coward's tool. Then stop me. He drives her back with carrion greatsword sweeps. 1, 2, a feint. Then a shard to the band at her eyes that she turns with the blade edge like she swats a fly. Her return is a stab for the liver. He angles the staff and lets it skid off, then steps in and whips the short sword at her wrist. She lets it cut skin to give herself the reach to try for his throat. He twists. The tip kisses his collar. Cold pain. He hisses and slams his shoulder into her sternum. She does not move as much as a normal person would. He staggers back to keep from being punished for it. Again, she says. He feels it now. Every clean hit she makes steals a breath from him. Pull at the soul. He remembers reports from others. Lifesteal. He grinds his teeth and refuses to panic. Noted, he mutters. He switches. Fortisax's lightning spear down the line of her approach. Twin bolts crack the air with a hard snap. She reads the wind and slides through the gap with an economy that would make a drillmaster cry. Her blade clips his thigh guard and sparks. His thigh sings. He plants and counters with a moonlight projectile from the greatsword. It blooms cold. She cuts it apart with 3 short strokes. You carry the moon, she says. I carry distance, he says. She comes again. He meets her. The room fills with sound. Steel. Breath. Shoes scuffing on grit. He takes a cut on the forearm and pays for it with a short hammering flurry that drives her back 2 steps. She steals health off the last nick. He curses. He chooses to escalate. Dragon, he says under his breath. I need your anger. He opens his jaws and roars Aguil's flame across the floor. Turns spores into ash. Heat washes the tiles. Melnia moves through it and does not scream. She comes left, high. He tilts the great sword and slams the flat into her ribs like a bat. The impact is a heavy thud. She slides, catches herself, and twitches her wrist to send a needle thrust at his eye. He sways. The tip whistles past his lashes. Busy, he says to himself. He can taste iron. The dance goes on. He burns a flask. He keeps Cleanse Me running low. He does not let waterfowl catch him flat. He breaks one charge with a buckler parry and drives a moonlight heavy into her chest. She stumbles. Blood darkens her band. She stops. The room stops with her. Good, she says. She plants the katana point down and breathes in. The flower answers. Scarlet Ionia opens at her feet in a bloom that wants the world. The gust blows him back. Spores pour out in a thick sheet. He throws up his left forearm to shield and puts frenzy in his right eye on purpose. Don't! Melina whispers in his head, sudden and sharp. I have to, he says, already doing it. He speaks the words he hates. They buzz. A howl tears his throat on the exit. Frenzied burst. It rips a line through the bloom and punches into her center as she rises. She screams this time. He pays for it. Madness slams his skull with a spike of white heat. His vision blurs. He stumbles. He digs the staff tip into the tiles to stop a fall. He sucks air and forces the madness back down like a man shoving a lid onto a boiling pot. Harry, Melina says, urgent. I'm here, he grits. I'm here. Melnia lands and comes straight on. No trick. Raw intent. He sets Golden Vow again, low. He meets her half-step with a Fallen Star Beast jaw slam. Gravity crack from the staff's tip that punches a hole into the floor. The shock interrupts her gallop. He follows with two moonlight heavies, one at collar, one at hip. The second tears cloth and skin. She staggers, then leaps into a quick omelet of slices that right a cage in the air. He blocks three, dodges one, eats one on the pauldron that sends a sting into his shoulder and a tug at his heart. Health down. Stolen. He curses and drinks. Your tricks do not change the end, she says. They buy me choices, he says. He is shaking now. Arms numb. Breath loud. He keeps his feet correct because if they go wrong the whole thing goes wrong. He hears the lift chain in the distance. He smells sap and coin and something sweet trying to hide rot. His left hand tingles from frenzy recoil. He forces the fingers to close. Third, she says. Third what, he says. Bloom. Her body tightens. The ground hums. The spores lift. The second Ionia detonates in the air and the third grows out of it before the ash lands. He has no cover. The world goes red. His skin crawls and tries to come off. He bribes physics. He calls Xyx's decay in a thin, controlled line, not at her, at the spores closest to him. They drop out of the air like wet flour. He throws himself through the hole. Heat licks his back. The floor buckles. He rolls and coughs green into his cloth. He tastes bile. Rot, he spits. He slams Cleanse Me like a man drowning. Melnia is in the heart of the flower. She rises again, dripping, terrible, perfect. She is not human in this. He does not waste feeling on that. He sets stance and goes. Enough, he says. Look at me. She actually tilts her head. Say it. You're killing yourself to prove you can't be killed. False, she says, and the blade flicks. It is the fastest line yet. He cannot block it. He takes it on the crescent of the moonblade, and the dark moon sings. The note is cold. Turns the cut. The edge glances. He slides inside and puts his left palm on her shoulder like he is greeting an old friend. He pours Fortisac's lightning through that hand and into her chest. The crack is blunt. The smell is hair. She spasms. He rips his hand away and brings the moonblade down at the wrist. The katana falls. She stares at the stump. Blood hisses where it hits the tiles. She does not scream. She looks up. Well done. Stop, he says. It ends here. We cut the god out and let you breathe. She smiles without humor. I bloom again. You will die, he says. She steps back into the flower and closes her eyes. He cannot let the third complete. He cannot let frenzy eat him. He needs fire that does not lie. He calls Vike's dragon bolt into his legs. It hurts. He jumps into the air on strength he does not have. He throws a frenzied burst through the center of the bud and accepts the white heat it shoves back into his skull. He follows with a Gil's flame to torch the last membrane. The bud stalls, quivers. Now, he tells himself. He raises the dark moon greatsword with both hands. His shoulders protest. His ribs complain. He does not care. He pulls a long breath, shapes the moon wave on the exhale, and cuts. The arc takes her from hip to shoulder. The cold moves with it. It severs the rot's hold for a blink. He steps in and drives the blade point into the ground at her feet. The shock runs up the hilt and into his arms. He shouts. Not a clever word. A sound to finish a job. The bloom collapses in on itself and coughs a last cloud. He covers his face with his sleeve. He coughs anyway. He stumbles once. He catches himself on the sword and drags it free. She stands. She sways. She reaches for a weapon that is not there and smiles when her hand closes on air. I am Melnia, she says, voice thin. Blade of yourself, he says, and he means it. For the first time, the line of her mouth softens like she remembers a different day. It is there for a heartbeat. Then it is gone. She drops to one knee. She forces her body up by will for the last strike that pride demands. He lets her have it. He raises the moonblade in a short salute, steps aside, and cuts the clean line that a warrior deserves. Her body goes still. Spores leak. The room quiets to the sound of wind outside. Harry staggers back 3 steps and sits hard on the edge of a broken dais. His hands shake. He pulls the cloth down and retches bile. He spits until the taste fades. He breathes. Short in. Long out. He lights Cleanse Me again and holds it until his chest stops burning. Harry, Melina's voice. Close now. She is at the arch, hand on stone. She does not come into the room until he nods. I'm clear, he says. Mostly. She crosses to him and kneels. Show me your eyes. He looks at her. She studies both pupils and the skin around them. Madness. Not today, he says. I used it with care, she huffs. You never use that with care. You just use it. I used it with less care before, he says. A small grin leaks out. It dies fast. He sobers. I did what I said I wouldn't. I used dark tools to end something worse. You are alive, she says. So is the law you freed. The world is not clean. We knew that. He drinks. He wipes his mouth. He looks at Melnia and then away. I tried to speak to her before the third bloom. I heard, Melina says. She did not listen. She listened enough to answer, he says. It's something. Footsteps from the far door. Slow. Careful. A woman with a thin frame and bandaged arms stops at the threshold. Red hair. Tired eyes. Millicent. She looks at the body. She looks at Harry. She swallows. Did she suffer? She asks. She fought, he says. She made me work for every inch. She chose her last step. Millicent nods once. Her throat moves. Thank you, he nods back. There's rot in the corridor by the lift. Don't touch the wall. There's bread at the grace. Who are you? She asks. Harry, I'm Millicent. I have something to do. Then I'll sleep. Make sure you do, he says. She leaves without more talk. He watches her go. He thinks of choices and ropes that call themselves gifts. He files it away. He will follow that thread if the world lets him. Come, Melina says soft. This place will crawl again. He pushes up. His legs argue. He ignores them. He wraps the greatsword and shoulders it. He takes one last look at the crater. He bows his head once. Not for a god. For a soldier who had no one to argue with her early enough. They walk. Wind pushes snow into the hallway. His lungs burn. His fingers tingle. He keeps moving until the cold tastes like air again and not rot. At the grace he drops to both knees and sets his palm on the light. Warmth climbs into his elbows and holds there. Melina sits beside him. She tips a flask into his hand. Drink this one too. What is it? Something I made from a priest's pantry. It will not make you brave. It will make you stop shaking. He drinks. It is bitter and honest. He breathes and the tremor eases. A pulse moves through the tree. Small. Real. He lifts his head. Did you feel that? He asks. Something unclenched, she says. He nods. Good. A shadow falls over the snow outside the arch. Not a body. Presence. The air cools 2 degrees. He looks up. Runny stands in the doorway as a projection. Not a doll. Moonlight catches on the edge of her hat. The tower is very far away and also here. Her eyes are clear. She takes him in with one long look that weighs parts and totals the result. You live, she says. I do, he says. She steps close enough to kneel without the snow touching her dress. She reaches out and stops a breath from his cheek. May I? He nods. She sets fingers very lightly against his jaw where the cloth rubbed the skin raw. Cold runs from her hand into the heat under his skin. The sting eases. He exhales. You compromised, she says. Not a question. I did, he says. Do not do it every time, she says. Do it only when nothing else will stop a worse compromise. That was the math, he says. She looks toward the garden. She would have cut me to pieces. You did a hard thing. It felt like doing 2 wrong things and hoping they made a right, he says. Sometimes they do, she says. He looks up at her. The room falls away in his head for a breath. It is just the 3 of them and the sound of wind. He speaks low. I am still with you. I know, she says. He leans in by a finger's width. She does the same. The kiss is small. It is dry. It is simple. It does not try to make the world better than it is. It just says we are here. She stands. The air warms back a degree. Starscourge prepares his dance. Blade drinks and boasts. E.g. prays to a hammer without pretending it is a god. When you can stand without listing, come to Eleden. We will end the sky's argument. On my way, he says. Runny's mouth does the almost smile. Do not use the madness unless you have to. I dislike speaking to a man who can only see fire. Noted, he says. She fades. Harry leans his head back against the pillar. He lets the grace do a little more work. He closes his eyes. He opens them again before sleep can trick him. Report, Melina says. He snorts. I lived. I used frenzy in a controlled line. It hurt. It almost knocked me over. Dragonfire cleared the first bloom. Lightning helped during a grappling exchange. Moonblade cut the 3rd before it could settle. I took 3 serious hits and a lot of small ones. I stole none. She stole 3 mouthfuls. I still won. And your head? She asks. Loud, he says. Not broken, she nods. That will do. He stands. The world tilts a fraction. He waits. It stops. He pulls on a fresh cloth and ties it slow. He tightens the strap on the greatsword. He checks the staff. The hum is steady. Eleden, he says. Eleden. She agrees. They walk out into snow that has decided to stop for a minute. The lift rattles them up to wine that tastes like iron and smoke from a far camp. Harry looks east. The red line on the horizon pulses like a slow heartbeat. He breathes once. Next, he says. Ash rode the wind over Landel like ground-up bone. It got under the collar and stuck to sweat. Harry pulled the cloth tighter over his cheek and kept walking. The wide stairs up to the Capitol gate were half-buried. Armor lay in drifts like shed shells. A standard leaned against a smashed cart. The cloth had burned away. Only the pole remained. Melina matched his pace. You still bleed through the wrap. It'll hold. Say if it doesn't. Noted. Inside the walls the city was quiet in the loud way of places that used to have 1,000 voices. Tents sagged under gray dust. A bell hung crooked over a shrine. The clapper was gone. He tried not to count how many doors were open that should have been shut. At the broad boulevard, wind pushed a swirl of ash down the center like a river. He saw the footprints before the prince saw him, big, deep, deliberate. They ran straight ahead toward the throne path. He knew the owner without being told. Melina stopped at the base of the long steps up to the sanctified arena. Once we climb, there's no place to catch breath. I'll make breath. Good. They climbed. Each landing opened a new view of the broken trees' immense roots clutching the city. The air tasted like a fireplace doused with water. At the top, a great door stood open. Wind moved the banners on the far wall just enough to show a faded lion. Godfrey stood in the center, one hand on a long axe, the other resting easy at his side. The lion behind him, Sirach, watched with old, tired eyes. Stone cracked under Godfrey's bare feet each time he shifted his weight. He didn't look surprised to see them. "Another hopeful," he said. The voice was deep with a roughness that made the ribs want to brace. "Name, Harry." "Eleden, Lord Hopeful Harry," Godfrey said, as if trying on the words to see if they fitted. "You walked through ash and didn't turn. That is something. Do you know who I am?" "Godfrey, first Eleden Lord. Also Hoera Lu," he said, eyes narrowing the slightest bit. Locked up so long he learned to whisper. "I wore this title while the world had enemies. When there were none, she sent me away. Now you come to take the chair that threw me out." He raised the axe 1 inch, then set it back down. "Prove you've earned a seat." Harry planted his staff. "No bow, no kneel. I'm not here to wear your crown. I'm here to end a rigged game." Godfrey's mouth tugged. It wasn't a smile. It wasn't not a smile. Men love calling rigged what they cannot win. "Show me this rig." "Your order tells men to cut pieces off themselves to fit the costume," Harry said. He looked at the lion. "And it gives them a beast to sit on the urge that doesn't fit." Sirach lifted his head. The claws flexed once on Godfrey's shoulders. Godfrey reached up and touched the mane without looking. "You speak like a priest who dropped his book," Godfrey said. "Words without fear. Very well. We'll speak in the old language." He stepped forward. The floor answered. Harry braced. "Melina," he said low. "I'll watch," she said from the arch. Golden vow sat low in his chest. No glow, just a steadying weight. He answered the weight with a breath and moved. Godfrey came first. No feint, no spin. A simple overhead cut that would have split a cart and the ox under it. Harry didn't try to stop it. He slid half a step and let the head blow the tiles into powder where he'd been. The shockwave punched his knees. He rode it and stabbed at Godfrey's lead thigh. The point skated and nicked. Godfrey didn't flinch. "Good," Godfrey said and stamped. The ground rippled. The ripple didn't stop at his boots. It ran out in a ring. Harry jumped the first and met the second with a short, timed hop that didn't leave him open. The third came late, a trick for the careless. He caught it on bent knees and bled the force into his hips. The axe came again. He threw a moonlight projectile into the armpit gap. It broke against muscle like glass against oak. "Hard to charm," Harry muttered. "Hard to cheat," Godfrey said, and swung across. The blade hummed. Harry met it with the staff and let the strike glance. The hum ran up his arms. His fingers tingled. They moved in a tight circle. Godfrey's feet were patient. The axe wrote half-moons through the air that always arrived a finger faster than they looked. Harry worked inside them. Shards at the eyes. Carrion sweep to push him back. Lightning spear to make him guard low and open the shoulder. Godfrey answered each with the simplest option. Step, turn, chop. He made the ring of ripples on the floor whenever Harry looked like he wanted to plant. "You were a king taught to behave," Harry said between breaths. "Lord," Godfrey said. He didn't sound offended. "I learned to hold a world in 2 hands. To keep the barbarian quiet while the children slept. And when there were no enemies you were exiled," Harry said. "It is what happens when a man like me has no work," Godfrey said. His eyes warmed as if the talk made the blood move faster. "You. What are you when there's no war?" Harry didn't answer. He stepped in and cut twice at the wrist. The second landed. Godfrey's fingers tightened harder on purpose and crushed the pain into silence. He answered with a stomp that Harry half-dodged. The shock banged his teeth. His vision shocked white and then steadied. "Eyes," Melina said from the arch. "I know." Godfrey swung wide. Harry went under and left and felt the edge shear a few hairs off the back of his head. He answered with a thrust for the ribs and a slice on the retract. The thrust nicked. The slice didn't. Sweat burned his eyebrow cut. He blinked it out and reset his grip. Godfrey planted the axe butt and looked at Harry as if the warm-up had reached the end of its courtesy. "You've got more in you than grace," Show it. Harry set the staff into the floor and pulled the dark moon blade free. The hum changed. The air cooled. He felt it bite his palms. He did not try to look impressive with it. He held it like a hammer that happened to be a sword. Sirosh lifted his head again, restless now. Godfrey reached back, not gentle, and pressed the lion down. The lion faded by a degree. The pressure in the room changed. Stay, Godfrey told it. Then he drove forward. Moonlight arcs met axe strokes. The impacts cracked tiles and shook banners. Godfrey's strength didn't fade. Harry's arms burned. He took a gash along the ribs and sealed it with a muttered fortification that tasted like iron. He landed a clean moonlight heavy that laid a cold line along Godfrey's chest. Godfrey laughed once, short, pleased, then stamped a double quake that almost buckled Harry's knees. Stop holding back, Godfrey said. Low now. The voice of a man leaning across a table at the end of a long argument. If you mean to take the world, take it with all your parts. Harry bared his teeth. I am. No. You're still deciding what makes you pure. There is no pure, Godfrey said. He threw the axe high, caught it low, and hacked at an angle that would have cut an ox yoke and the two men under it. Harry braced, met the impact, and felt his shoulders scream. He pushed back anyway and slid under Godfrey's guard just long enough to put the moon blade under his ribs and lift. Godfrey grunted. Not pain. Respect. The lion made a low sound. Godfrey went still. His eyes cut up and left as if listening to a voice in the rafters. Then he nodded to himself. The lion raised its head for the last time. Godfrey reached back and touched its brow with 2 fingers. Go, he said. Sirosh dissolved like smoke pulled through a keyhole. The room's pressure broke. The quiet that followed was not calm. Godfrey's shoulders loosened. His mouth relaxed into a shape that belonged in a different hall on a different day. He rolled his neck, set the axe aside with care and spread his hands. Hoera Lu, he said. The name fit him like muscle. Warrior, he came barehanded. The first grab would have thrown Harry into the wall if he had been a half-step slower. He wasn't. He slipped out and drove the pommel of the moon blade into the side of the jaw. Hoera smiled and came again, faster, with a low tackle that took Harry just above the knees and wrenched him sideways. Harry hit the floor, rolled, and felt fingers brush his ankle. He kicked free and slashed at the forearm. Blood beaded and behaved like blood. Better, Hoera said and roared. The roar hit the chest. He tried to reach in and wring the lungs. Harry locked his jaw and took it with the golden vow kicked high for a breath. He charged and tried a short, mean cut at the groin. Hoera twisted his hips and let the blade skate off the bone like this was a dance he had done too many times to count. His elbow came down on the back of Harry's neck. Pain flashed. Harry turned with it, slid out and hacked the calf. Hoera didn't slow. They fought close. Less pretty. More real. Harry's breath shortened. Hoera's footwork stayed honest. He grabbed for Harry's head. Harry ducked and put a lightning spear into the belly at palm range. The pop made Hoera grunt. Harry followed with a moonlight heavy that carved the shoulder. Hoera took the pain and turned it into a bear hug. The world narrowed. Harry jammed the staff end into the foot and shoved. The hold broke. He rewarded that with a thrust into the ribs. Hoera's eyes brightened. You are not trying to be golden, Hoera said, eager now. You are trying to be whole. Good. I am trying to be done, Harry said, and put a frenzied burst into the floor between them to buy 4 beats. White heat slapped his skull. He bit down a shout and rode the pain into movement. Melina's voice tight. Careful, I've got it, he said, though his vision fuzzed for a blink. Hoera lunged. Harry met him with a low moonlight sweep that took the shin and a stab for the throat that he turned into a feint at the last blink to cut the ear instead. Hoera barked a laugh. Then he went quiet and serious and came with both hands open for the kill. Harry didn't run. He changed the question. He set Fortisax's lightning along his skin and stepped into the grab. Hoera's hands closed on his shoulders and the shock went through both of them. Harry's teeth rattled. Hoera snarled and squeezed harder. Harry drove the moon blade up under the ribs, felt the point bite, and shoved as far as his hands would go. However, Lou staggered. He did not let go. Harry pushed until the hilt kissed skin and the cold of the blade ran out into heat and muscle. Then he ripped it out and dropped, rolled under the last reflexive squeeze, and came up behind the big man. However turned slow, full of hurt, still ready to fight. Harry didn't make him chase. He stepped in, put the blade to the heart, and pushed clean and steady. He felt the body sag against him. He let it go down gentle. Godfrey's eyes were clear again in the last second. He looked at the ceiling, not as if leaving a prayer there but as if checking it for cracks. "Good," he said. "Hold your whole self. Do not let her teach you to whisper." "I won't," Harry said. Godfrey's mouth twitched in that almost smile. Then the breath left. Harry stood with head down and shoulders shaking once, twice. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and tasted salt and ash. His ribs ached. His forearms hummed. He let the vow down to a simmer. Melina joined him, calm, eyes bright. "Well done." He wanted this. He wanted to be seen, she said. "You did that." He looked past her. The great doors at the far end of the arena stood ajar. A draft came from there that did not belong to wind. It smelled like sap and old rain. "The tree," he said. "Yes," she said. They walked the long aisle to the base of the Erd tree. Up close, the bark was not smooth. It was a million scars layered on one another until they looked like gold. The trunk curved out of sight. The roots ran into the city like chains and veins at once. Harry set a hand on it. The surface was warm. Not friendly, not cruel, just warm. He looked at Melina. She had her hands folded at her waist, thumbs touching. The way she stood when she was about to say something she'd reheated a dozen times and didn't like the taste of. "Say it," he said. "You don't need my fire," she said. "Not anymore. You carry the law that burns this on contact. You will do it. I will watch. When it's done, I will rest. Not because the finger says so. Because the work I took on is finished and I choose rest." He nodded. "I promised you rest. You promised me freedom from a plan. You kept it." She stepped in close enough that her shoulder nearly touched his. "Tell me something true before you light it." He thought of clever, brave lines. He pushed them away. "I'm afraid that when the smoke clears I won't know how to be a person. Only a function." She looked at his face like a healer checks a wound for honest edges. "Then I'll say this now while I can still say things to you in a room. You are not an altar. You are not a prophecy. You are a man who can sit on a step and eat bread and make a joke. Keep that. When you forget, ask the people who know you to remind you. Even if one of them is a witch with strange hours." He breathed out. The air shook a little at the end. "Thank you. Do it," she said. He set the wand against the bark. The grain under his palm felt like the elder wand had when it had first taught his hand how to hold power without choking it. He pressed. He didn't call a sorcery. He didn't whisper a prayer. He let the law he'd freed in Farum Azula run from the bone into the wood. The Erd tree resisted for one breath, the way a stubborn door does before it remembers it is a door. Then the heat arrived from inside it, and the first crack ran up the trunk like a line drawn with a nail. Sap hissed. Light puffed out of the split like breath on a winter morning. The smell of clean smoke pushed the sapsweet away. "Back," Melina said, and tugged his sleeve. They stepped away as a section of bark popped. Fire crawled. Not in a hurry, not slow, precise as a scribe. The first root took, then the second. Wind pulled the smoke sideways and piled it against the stone like storm clouds clinging to a hill. The sound was not a roar. It was a constant, low working like bellows. Melina's hand found his. She squeezed once. Enough. He stopped the push. The fire kept going. It didn't need him now. He watched until the light inside the trunk settled into a steady glow, like a hearth that would not go out before the night ended. Melina turned his hand over and set her palm flat against his. "I'm done," she said. He looked at her and saw it. The loosening around the eyes. The small smile that wasn't for anyone else. The way her shoulders set in a new place as if a weight had been moved from the wrong shelf to the right one. "Sleep," he said. "I will. Not far. Not forever. Just enough," she said. Don't call me unless you need a door I can actually open. He laughed once through the tightness in his chest. Bossy. She leaned in and kissed his cheek at the edge of the old cut. Warm. Clean. Live, she said. Light took her the way morning takes frost. Not violent. Not theatrical. Just gone when he blinked and looked again. The spot where she'd stood felt like a foot had pressed there and lifted. Harry stood alone with the burning tree and the long aisle at his back. He let himself hold the emptiness for 3 breaths. Then he straightened the strap on the moonblade and walked toward the next door. The heart of Landel had cracked open. Ash swirled in the corridors like snow deciding what to do with itself. He followed the path that Grace had marked before and found it where he expected. A half-buried arch that opened into a chamber of faint, steady light. Radagon stood at the far end. Not God. Not man. A shape you could not quite draw twice the same way. He held a hammer that had rebuilt a broken law and could break it again. Gold flaked from his hair with each breath as if he was molting. Harry stopped at a measured distance. He didn't announce himself. He didn't posture. He rolled his shoulders once and set his feet. Radagon raised the hammer. The head glowed, not hot, not cold, something that made the air stiffer. You were a man once, Harry said, voice level. A husband, a father. You became a joint in a system, and it ground everything through you until you forgot what the ground felt like. Radagon didn't answer. The hammer came down. The floor screamed. Light exploded toward him like a sheet. He met it with the moonblade raised and felt the cold bite into the heat and hold. Sparks fell around him and went out before they could be a fire. They moved. Radagon's swings bent space. He missed by a finger and still bruised the ribs under Harry's mail. Harry stayed inside the long arcs as often as he could, cut at elbows, knees, and the small places where power has to pass even in a god's body. He threw lightning to interrupt wind-ups. He slid moonlight heavies into the openings that followed and took what they gave. Each hit cost him. Each block set his teeth aching. Closer, he told himself. Closer. A slam shook the chamber. Hairline cracks ran through the floor. Light leaked from them like sand from a torn bag. Radagon faltered for the first time, not a stumble, a fraction late on a reset. Harry punished it, stepped in, cut the thigh, and jammed the pommel into the jaw with a short, mean strike that rattled his own hands. Radagon's eyes, if they were eyes, flicked past Harry toward the tree behind, as if listening to a voice through stone. Then the hammer rose slow and stayed there. The body split. Gold tore along a seam that had always been there. Marika's statue shape showed and then shattered like a shell. The light went out like a candle under a lid. For a heartbeat there was no sound. No pull. Nothing. Then the floor opened into black water full of stars. The thing that rose out of it wasn't a man. It wasn't a beast either. The air around it firmed like glass in the cold. Rings turned around a core that held law the way a heart holds blood. The sword it lifted wasn't forged. It was an argument written down. Harry's breath misted. Not cold. A stealing heat. The Eleden beast, he said, quiet, the way a man says the real name of a storm. It looked at him without eyes and knew everything he had done that mattered. The sword pointed and the space between them lengthened as if the room had taken a long step backward. Harry rolled his shoulders once, felt every bruise wake up, and set his feet on a floor that no longer wanted to be a floor. Melina, he said out loud to a room that didn't carry sound the same way anymore. I'm going on. No answer. No need. He lifted the moonblade. He set the wand under his palm until the bones hummed with the memory of Farum Azula. He breathed in, breathed out. All right, he said to the avatar of a distant will. Come on. The blade of law cut the air and made the room longer. Harry leaned into the tilt, weight on the balls of his feet, breath short and steady. The Eleden beast lifted its sword again. Rings formed in the air around him, thin, perfect circles of gold, then flew outward. The floor slid. The ceiling creaked like ice. Move, he told himself. He went through the first ring before it could close, rolled under the second, and let the third pass a hand's width above his spine. The hair on his neck lifted. He came up in a crouch with the moonblade already shaping a projectile. Cold light rippled. The arc struck the beast's flank and bled off in sparks. No grunt. No sound. It didn't have lungs. It didn't need them. A star blossomed behind its chest. The light crawled forward like a swarm. Eleden stars. The room filled with small, hot points that chased his heat. He swore, snapped golden vow low in his chest, and sprinted right, cutting across the current. A dozen stars clipped his back and shoulders with sharp, stinging hits. He bit down and kept moving. Eyes, he told himself. Watch the shoulders. The sword turned, slow at first, then not slow at all. A thrust dragged space. The tip pulled the floor like netting. He went left. The tip still tried to find his ribs. He dropped his shoulder and let it pass above the collar by a finger. The hum in the air made his teeth ache. He needed to mark it. He needed law against law. He set the staff under his palm and called the black blade into the wand the way he had at Faramazula. No flourish, no shout, just a sober decision. The tip darkened as if the room had lost a piece of night and the wand had borrowed it. His forearm went cold to the elbow. The beast saw, twisted. The rings returned. Bigger, faster. Harry exhaled. He stepped through the first, hopped the second, slashed the third with a moonlight heavy to spoil the geometry, then pointed the wand and sent a dark line across the open space. The line bit. The beast flinched. The room noticed. For a moment the circles stuttered, not sure who gave orders. Good. He pressed. Lightning spear into the shoulder swirl to interrupt the next swing. Carrion sweep to keep it honest. A quick shard for the joint where the sword met the arm. The beast floated back and then dove into the star water that ran under the floor. Of course, he said, breath rough. It reappeared 40 feet away, already turning. He ran at it. The sword came down. He threw himself into a long slide and felt heat kiss his back as the edge shaved stone. He came up on one knee and cut low at the belly with the moonblade. Cold burned his palms. The arc landed and left a line. He followed with a short, mean thrust for the joint. The tip bit. The room rang like a struck bowl. The beast lifted, angry now. His chest opened and wrote a promise in light. The promise sprinted for his face. Harry spat flame, cleanse me on instinct. It burned the inside of his mouth and cleared the fog of Eleden stars that had tried to thicken his breath. He tucked the staff under his arm, grabbed the greatsword two-handed, and met the next swing at an angle, teeth gritted. The impact drove him a step. His shoulder screamed. He held the line and did not give his feet. Melina, he said out loud. Stupid habit, no answer here. He tilted the blade, let the weight slip, and countered with a short hook at the wrist. Cold blue bit gold. The beast withdrew a handspan. Hurt. Not enough. He reached deeper. The wand warmed under his skin. He pressed the tip to his sternum and let the hum climb bones. Faramazula's quiet returned in his ears. The moment when he had made room for death to pass through him without taking him. He lifted the wand and pointed it like he was choosing a nail on a board. End, he said. Calm. The dark jumped. Not light. A conclusion. It struck the beast where the soul should be. The sound it made wasn't a scream. It was a chord out of tune. The rings faltered for 3 beats. He filled them, moonlight heavy, lightning palm, another black blade line to cut the recovery. Then a step inside the next sweep and a push-up under the ribs with everything his legs could deliver. The beast broke from him and fled into the water again. The floor shook. Cracks crawled under his boots. His lungs burned. His left forearm throbbed with a deep ache where the wand had asked too much. He drank. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Tasted like pennies and smoke. The surface of the star water bulged. It came up on his left this time, fast, trying to pin him between the sword and the rings that were already forming. Not today. He threw a frenzied burst into the ceiling over the beast's head. The white heat hit his skull and made his vision wobble. He rode it, counted 2, and jammed it back down. Stone cracked. Dust fell. The beast tipped its head to adjust. He stole the window and cut a clean moonlight arc across the joint. The arm slowed. He stepped in with a grunt and drove the point up again, low and mean. The beast finally reacted like pain had rules. Jerked. The sword dropped. A ring nicked his hip and stole air but not footing. Push, he told himself. Finish. He burnt his last flask. He set golden vow one more time. He set fortify on his ribs. He set calm in his own head by force. The beast lifted the sword high for the page illustration stroke. He didn't wait for it to complete. He went underneath, shouldered into the chest, and planted the wand point first like he was staking a tent in wind. End. The dark ran into the core. The room stopped. Light drew in like held breath. His ears rang. His eyes watered. The sword hung at an angle and then slid out of true and came apart in the middle. Rings collapsed. The floor stopped trying to be a slope and remembered it was a floor. The Eleden beast sagged like a held shape finally let go. It broke along lines he couldn't map. Gold turned to dust. Dust turned to nothing. The star water stilled. A small, clean sound passed through the chamber. One simple bell note that could have been a rib settling or the last thought of a rule. Harry stood with shoulders down and the moonblade tip on the floor so the weight didn't pull his arms. He let his jaw unclench. He swallowed hard. His hands shook. He didn't drop the wand. He counted breaths. In. The taste of metal faded. His knees stopped trying to think for him. Something moved behind him. He turned. Marika's broken shape lay where Radagon had split. The cracks glowed for a moment, then dimmed. Above the dais, blue light started to gather at a point in the air, slow as frost forming. A sign. He stepped toward it, stopped a step away, and made his jaw say the word before his head could talk him into a speech. Ranni. The sign flared. She arrived not as the doll first, but as herself, tall, distant, eyes clear. The cold of her presence familiar, welcome. The room's hard edges softened inside that blue. She took him in with one long look. Blood at his hip, scorch along his sleeve. A dark line across the wands would where the last stroke had gone deeper than it should. You have ended it, she said. I ended a piece of it, he said. The part that kept pretending to be law while breaking everything to fit. She stepped closer. Her fingers hovered near his cheek, asking. He nodded. She touched the skin where the wrap had rubbed him raw. Cold ran under heat. The sting bled away. You did not lose yourself to fire, she said. I almost did. He held her eyes. I want to make the new thing with the dead in it. Properly. Not as pests. As part of the rule. Her gaze flicked to the still water and back. FIA's rune. In me, he said, hand over his chest. Warm. Honest. She watched his hand, then his face. Speak it. I do not want your age without the end that makes life mean something, he said. I do not want death without your distance to keep hands off it. Join them with me. Ranni's mouth tilted by a small degree, not a smile, not one. You ask to alter a vow I wrote in a lonely tower. I ask to keep us honest, he said. For the ones who had their end stolen. She looked past him at the broken goddess and the empty place where the beast had been. Then she looked at him again and the distance in her eyes changed. Not gone, but less like a wall. Very well, she said. Do it with me. I will not yield my distance. You will not yield your end. Good, he said. Take my hand. He held out his right. She set her left in it, cold and steady. He drew the mending rune up from the place under his sternum where FIA's work had set it. Warmth rose through bone. It felt like a small child's breath against a shoulder. He lifted the moonblade in his other hand and set the flat along their joined fingers. The blade thrummed, soft, waiting. Words, Ranni said. Plain ones, he said. No sermons, he spoke. Keep the gods' hands off the world. Keep death inside it. No more stolen ends. No more ropes called love. Ranni's voice came in under his and set the shape. No more meddling fingers. No more cages of light. The moon stands apart. The dead go home. He pushed the rune forward. The warmth met the cold. For a breath they fought like two stubborn animals, then settled into the same harness. Blue spread. Not flood. Not fire. A clean wash. It ran through the chamber, up the crack in Marika's stone, along the floor into the star water and out. He felt it travel. He felt it touch roads and homes he had crossed. A soldier near Stormgate looked up and stopped hearing whispers. A corpse sitting against a wall in Liurnia lay down and did not stand again. In deep root, Fia's chest rose and fell easier, and the roots over her stopped twitching like nerves. On a beach under a ruined tower, waves hit bones and the bones stayed bones. Outside, the Erd tree, burning already, stopped throwing sparks like a show and burned steady, quiet, like a job done with purpose. The gold haze thinned. Sky showed. Stars took their places and held. The age of the boundless night took its first breath. Harry's knees wobbled. He held on to her hand until his hands remembered the ground. The rune sank back into him when it was done. Not empty, just calmer. Runny watched him steady and didn't speak until he had both feet back. "Consort," she said. He looked at her, winded, raw, present. "Yes, say it." He didn't make it grand. "Runny, I stand with you. Not as a leash, as a line beside yours. We keep distance. We keep ends. We look after the parts in between without pretending to be their parents." Her eyes warmed by a fraction. "Harry, I take you as my consort. Not as a chain, as a second decision. We rule by not putting our fingers on every cup." He blinked hard once and laughed because the words carried too much weight to leave without a small release. She let the sound sit between them, unoffended. He leaned in. She did the same. The kiss was simple. It didn't try to fix the room. It said clearly, "We are here and we agree and we choose this." They stayed close for a breath longer, foreheads almost touching, counting the same quiet. Then he let go of her hand and looked at the wand. The elder wand hummed under the skin of his palm. A line of dark ran along it where he'd put too much of death into wood. He turned it once in his fingers. The grain still fit his hand better than any handle ever had. He breathed in through his nose and let it out through his teeth. "I have to cut the last seam," he said. "Between this place and home." Runny's head tipped. "If you leave it open, something will crawl through. If you close it, you cannot go back without breaking your own law." "I know," he said. His mouth went dry. He swallowed. "It's the right trade." She didn't soften it. "Do it." He stepped to the edge of the dais and looked into the star water. Somewhere on the far side of reality there was a cupboard under stairs, a crooked shed, a kitchen that never slept, a castle that watched a lake turn black at night and silver at dawn. He let the pictures come. He let them go. "Thank you," he said quiet, to everything that had gotten him this far. He set the wand in both hands, horizontal, like a man holding a staff across a door. He found the seam. It wasn't a line he could see with eyes. It was the feeling he had on the night the Hallows had agreed to obey him. A thin, dangerous place between fear and acceptance. He pushed the wand into that place and the wood began to hum, high and steady. "Last time," he told it. "Then rest." He spoke no incantation. He drew the law he had learned back through his bones and into the wood and then out, straight across the seam. The pressure went up. His ears popped. The wand groaned. No lie, a small sound like wood under too much weight. He pushed. The seam resisted like a stuck lid. He pushed harder. Pain ran up his forearms. His fingers went numb. He locked his elbows and gave it everything with a short, hard shout that startled him with how much of a boy it made him sound. The seam broke. Not a blast. Clean snap. A line became two lines that would not touch again. A rush of air went past him, as if a door had opened into vacuum somewhere very far away, and then closed before the house could shiver. The elder wand split in his hands from the middle out. The crack ran to the tip. The hum stopped. The wood went light. The last of the magic settled into the world around him like flour on a board and then was gone. His palms bled where splinters had bitten. The blood was bright and honest. He closed his hands and opened them again. The pieces of the wand lay across his fingers like two old bones. Runny watched him with her head a little to the side. She didn't offer comfort too fast. When she came close, she set a cloth in his hand and let him choose to use it. He wrapped his palms. He breathed. He didn't trust his voice for a minute. When it came back small and even. "That's done," he said. "Yes," she said. "You did not flinch." "I wanted to," he said. "It's fine." They stood a while, not talking. He listened to his body. Shake in the fingers. Sore in the ribs. Ankles tired. Skin hot then chilled. Normal. He thought of Melina. He didn't speak her name into this room. He held the feeling of her hand squeezing his once at the tree and let that be enough. Far above, the roar of the burning trunk evened out. Far below, the water stilled and kept the stars without trying to order them. Footsteps sounded behind them. Not urgent. Careful. Blade's shadow didn't come. It wasn't his place. Iji didn't leave his anvil. This was quieter. Small steps. Millicent stood at the arch with her good arm bound up and her bad arm missing at the elbow. Clean now. She looked at them, then at the water. It's easier to breathe, she said. It should be, Harry said. Will the rot stop? She asked. It will not spread like it did, he said. What it took, it took. What it touches now, it will fail to own. She nodded once. Good. She turned to go, then paused, mouth working. Thank you, she said without drama, and left. Runny watched the arch after she'd gone. We have much to do, she said. We do, he said. Mostly not touching. She glanced at him, pleased despite herself. Mostly. We will sit apart from a distance that does not suffocate. We will make judges honest by not telling them where to land. We will leave scholars alone unless they ask for a book to be saved from fire. He huffed a laugh. I like the book rule. Of course you do, she said. He took a step closer and put 2 fingers on her wrist. We will visit FIA when she wakes. We will tell her what we did with the piece she made. We will let D decide what to do with his mouth. Runny's eyes cooled, then warmed. He will learn. Or he will break and not be dangerous anymore. Either is fine, Harry said. He swayed a little. She saw it. She reached, slow, and set a hand on his shoulder to keep him upright without making a fuss. Rest, she said. Soon, he said. One more thing. He walked to Marika's broken shape and stood over it. He didn't speak to it. He didn't curse it. He stood the way a man stands at a wall that used to hold a door and understands that knocking won't invent one. He turned back. Done, he said. They left the chamber together. The walk out of Lanedale was strange. Ash still blew under doorways and settled on stone. But the air didn't bite anymore. People moved again in small numbers, not sure if they were supposed to. A child ran to pick up a dropped pot and didn't look around for permission from a finger she couldn't see. At a broken fountain, an old knight took off his helmet and let wind find his hair. Harry didn't wave. He didn't hold his hands out. He walked and breathed and kept his head level. Runny moved a half step off his shoulder, quiet as shadow. At the hill where the city fell away and the plains opened, he stopped and looked back. The Erd-tree burned clean. The sky above it was dark and full and not waiting for orders. The ash made a soft hiss on the steps. He thought of Privet Drive, the hall, the noise of 1,000 mouths, the quiet of the lake at night. The seam was closed. Good. Leave them be. Runny watched his face. Would you like to say anything ceremonial? She asked, gentle and dry at once. No, he said. I want bread, and to sit, and to listen to Blade lie about how many stars he cut down with his sword at Rodon's party. That is wise statecraft, she said. He smiled, felt strange on his face. He kept it anyway. They rode. Torrent took the weight without complaint. Wind off the plain tasted like dust and grass and a little salt blown far from shore. At a small camp where a merchant had dared to lift a flap again, Harry bought bread and cheese and a skin of water. He paid in runes and a promise to leave the man alone. The man nodded and didn't bow. They ate on a low wall under a tree that was only a tree. Tomorrow, Runny said between small bites, we go to the tower. I will set the signals. The fingers will learn that their instructions do not carry. Good, he said around bread. He wiped his hands on his trousers and then remembered the bandages. He made a face. Runny reached and retied one wrap with quick, efficient motions. We will also make a list, she said. Of what? Of things we will not do, no matter who asks us. He laughed. Start it. She looked up at the sky and recited like a clerk. We will not raise an army to teach people how to be good. Solid, he said. We will not build a new tree. We will not write laws about kisses, she said, deadpan. Important, he said. He leaned in and kissed her again just because the line demanded proof. She let it happen with the same calm as before, and then she leaned against his shoulder without turning it into a painting. Evening came without gold. Came with clear dark. Stars showed up and stayed. No pulsing orders. No eyes. He felt tired in the right way at last. Not the nervous, burning tired of the hunted. The heavy, simple tired of a man who had finished something that had needed finishing for a long time. He lay back on the wall and watched the sky. Ronnie watched beside him. He felt his breath flatten. He let it. His hands stopped shaking. The ache in his ribs fell into the background with all the other aches that meant he was alive. Harry, Ronnie said, voice low. Thank you, she said. For what? He asked, eyes on the dark. For not trying to be the last parent, she said. He smiled into the air. I never had the practice. They sat until the cold asked for blankets. He stood, joints popping, and helped her up. They walked toward the road that went north. Behind them, Landel settled into a new story. At the rise before the path dipped out of sight, he turned once more. The Erdtree glowed like coals. The wind made a small sound in the grass. In the distance, a wolf howled once and stopped, satisfied. Harry set his hand on the sword hilt, light, as if to say, I'm here. He squeezed Ronnie's fingers with his other hand. All right, he said, simple and sure. Let's keep watch.